My 27F, X, 26M, dumped me in January after 9 years together because he didn't think I was wife material. Now he reached out wanting to talk because he needs to get something off his chest. I don't know why he doing this or if I should met him. I was with my ex, who I will call Nate, because if I'm being honest, minus betraying a friend, I was a Cassie. I don't want to go too much into the details, but for the last 9 years I lost myself to Nate. He was my world, everything I did was for him. I helped him through depression, helped keep his grades up, even worked 2 jobs so he could focus on collage when his parents disowned him for nearly 3 years because they didn't agree with the major or collage he chose. Bear in mind I was also a collage student. When his parents started talking to him again and started to financial support him, we moved into a new apartment. Nate said he wanted me to quit my job. I didn't, because it was his turn to take care of me. For 16 months everything was great. He spoiled me. Then I noticed he was more interested in his new friends. At times he ignored me completely. Back in December he did a 180 and he bombed me the whole month. He really went out of his way to make Christmas magical for me. I honestly believed he was going to propose on January the 2nd. He made me my favorite dinner and made this speech about me being his first love, how I've been there since high school. I kept thinking any minute now he's gonna ask me to marry him. But no, he dumped me. As his speech went on my world fell apart, and as much he tried to sugarcoat it, he basically said, "You were a good girlfriend, but that's what you always be to me, a girlfriend. I don't see you as my wife or the mother of my children, blah blah. You served your purpose, now I don't need you anymore, blah blah. I need someone on my level, blah blah. You're a gold digger, blah. I'll give you 30 days to move out." I couldn't speak and he stared at me looking for a response. I think this lasted 20 minutes before he said he'd sleep in the guest room, then left. Strangely, I didn't cry or get angry. I just ordered cardboard boxes online, then went to bed. The next day I waited for him to leave the apartment before I left my room. Then I called my boss, asked, begged really, if I could transfer anywhere. She told me there wasn't anything, but if something came up in my department she'd consider me. I then reached out to everyone I knew that wasn't also Nate's friend for a place to stay. My cousin invited me to stay in her spare room for as long as I needed, and I could move in straight away, so that was amazing. In the 4 days it took me to pack my stuff and move out, I didn't see or speak to Nate. I doubt he even noticed. I didn't trust myself at the time to ignore a "you up" text, so I blocked him and everyone close to him, even changed me number email to make sure he couldn't reach me. The first night at my cousin's was the night everything hit me. I think I cried every night the first month. I honestly felt like shit. I thought about what Nate said over and over again. It made me feel so low, like I was nothing. He only stayed with me because I was just there, but thankfully my cousin sent for my mom, other cousins, and real friends to give me an intervention which I badly needed. I believe that first month I wouldn't have made it without my cousin. I'm still healing and waiting on that job transfer because I feel like if I'm not in the same city as Nate and I have a place of my own, the fresh start would do me the world of good. I thought by now I'd be a distant memory for Nate, but shockingly he sent flowers to my job today for my birthday, which was on Sunday. Apparently he went to my parents' house looking for me too, and my mom admitted he's been before dropping off stuff and tried to ask questions about me, but they told him to fuck off. The flowers came with a card saying, "Dear Cassie, happy belated birthday. I've been thinking about you for non-stop for the last few months, especially with how everything ended. I need to get something off my chest that I feel will haunt me for the rest of my life if I don't tell you this to your face, but I've no way of contacting you. If it's possible, can we meet up in the near future?" Nate. What could he want? What's haunting him he needs to say to my face? Everyone in my life is telling me ignore him, but they hate him. I'm torn, but I can't lie. My curiosity is telling me meet him to see what he wants. Has anyone been in my shoes or in Nate's? Comments. Commenter. NGL, I didn't read all that. I just wanted to say, just because he needs to say something doesn't mean you need to hear it. I doubt it's anything that would add vacuum to your life. He's likely wanting to alleviate guilt for some long ago trespass. Reply. My cousin thinks he tried to monkey branch and it didn't work out. Commenter 2. Seems like he cheated on you back in December before the love bombing. Now, this dumbass cheater is probably engaged to the affair partner, hence the wife material comment. Fuck him. Let him implode that relationship just like he imploded yours. He's not a good human, and he's trying to make himself feel better about something. He doesn't deserve that. And he doesn't deserve your time or energy. Reply. You know what's pathetic? If he cheated and told me that was the reason he was breaking up with me, wouldn't I don't think it'd have hurt me as much. Update. So we ended up meeting, and no, I didn't go to him. I had told the receptionist at my work if he came looking for just say I'm out for the day after he showed up once. I didn't want the drama of him around my job. So Nate just kept going to my usual places like the grocery store I go every Saturday evening or the park I ran at Sunday mornings, his words, till he would eventually run into me. And he did yesterday. He was waiting at the coffee shop I go to after my morning run. When I saw him I tried to turn around and leave, but he kept calling me, so I thought to myself if everything went pear-shaped a coffee shop would be safer than my walk home. So I just sat down and asked him what he wanted. He gave an apology that wasn't an apology, you know, the type with, "I'm sorry but," and "pity me." He blamed his mental health, his job, his parents, his friends, everyone but himself. I took someone's advice on here and said, cut the crap, I already know everything. He genuinely looked shocked and stared at me for a second. I guess he thought his coworker already told me everything so he couldn't lie. Here's what really happened. He fell for a girl in his office. When he told me her name I knew her immediately. I've met her a few times. He told for the last 2 years he idolized her. To be fair, she's beautiful with an amazing personality, and he hated me because I was the one stopping them from being together because his coworker was too classy to be a side piece. When he broke up with me, he confessed to her that he was madly in love with her and he ended a 9-year relationship to be with her. Well, here's where it gets funny. She doesn't even like him, lol. She called him a piece of trash and told him if he ever spoke to her outside work she'd report him to HR. So I asked him, what has any of this got to do with me? Like, we are over. I clearly cut ties, there's no reason for us to speak. He wants to try again, promised we'd get married before the year ends, that we belong together. I told him no, I'm nobody's second choice. He threw me away after 9 years and said some pretty cruel things to me, and now he thinks if he snaps his fingers I'll come running back. He tried to beg and fake tears, bringing the good times in our relationship. I told him please leave me alone as he wasted too much of my time already. I texted my cousin to meet me at the coffee shop. He kept saying nonsense, even suggested if I went to couples counseling for a few months he'd leave me alone. The 20 minutes it took for my cousin to arrive felt like 20 years. In the end I just stopped listening and stood at the counter making small talk with baristas till my cousin arrived. She told him to fuck off, and if he tried to follow us she'd call her brothers. He stayed in the coffee shop as far as I know, and we just went home. That's it. It's only been a day, but I feel like it's over and I'm free of him. Comments. Commenter 1. Pity you didn't tell him. Turns out, you're the one that's not husband material. If you can say things like, she's too classy to be a side piece, it means you'll never be a faithful, good, husband. Commenter 2. You are the witty bitch friend we all need. Commenter 3. Girl, MTA. You handled that like a queen. He threw away 9 years chasing a fantasy, got rejected, and thought you'd be waiting like a backup plan. Nah. You chose you, and I'm clapping for it. Commenter 4. This has to be the dumbest MF out there. Most people have the smarts to get a feel, set something up and monkey branch. I say this with revulsion, but this guy just YOLO'd his way to a breakup. The other girl was never interested in him. Either he is completely delusional and misread the signs, or he thought he was such a catch that she possibly couldn't say no. And now here he is, dumped by both women and crying about his fate. OP, you dodged a nuclear missile with this one. Stories number 2. I think I'm on my sister's ex-BF's side in their breakup. So I 26F have a little sister 24F who has been dating her boyfriend 25M since they were both 17. They were high school sweethearts who did long distance during college and all that. There were a few times my sister came to me thinking she might break up with her boyfriend. She always decided to stay with him. I love my sister's now ex-boyfriend like a brother. I mean, he's been a pretty major part of our life for 7 years and he's always been kind, protective, and supportive with my sister. Aside from some mental health issues of his own, he's been a great partner to her. Same with her. They're best friends. Truly the same people, same humor, same hobbies and interests, same morals and values, etc. My sister and her ex sat my partner and I down to chat a few days ago and told us they were broken up. My sister did all of the talking. I kept looking at her ex and he looked devastated but didn't add much at all. My sister said that since he's been her only partner she feels like she's missed out on other opportunities to try other relationships. She is pansexual, so she wants to try dating women and non-binary folks. She kept saying that maybe her and her ex could find their way back to each other one day. That maybe she just needed to experience other people before she could settle down with him. They are going to continue living together in their shared apartment and they want to continue to hang out with my partner and I as a group of 4. My sister says nothing really will change in their dynamic aside from stopping all romantic gestures and such. They will be roommates and friends, nothing more. My problem with this is that her ex wasn't saying anything. When I asked him he just affirmed they were happy with this decision. When my sister left to go to the bathroom I asked again and he said he didn't really have a choice. My sister just told him they were done, no further conversation about it. He said he feels like he pushed her to do this because he's been telling her for months to date a woman, but while they were still together because he didn't want to lose her. They had discussed getting engaged soon and what rings she liked many times over the past 2 years. He said he felt blindsided, but that who was he to stand in her way of exploring her sexuality. I don't like that they are going to continue to live together. I think my sister grieved this relationship and made this decision on her own over the past few months, but it is fresh for him. He still wants to be with her. He's holding on to hope she will come around soon and get back with him. I think she's moved on for good. I don't see how he will be able to get over her while they live together and continue to hang out with their friends like nothing has really changed. I think my sister needs to let him go. She needs to cut all ties and give him space for a few months. It feels like she wants to have her cake and eat it too kind of thing. Like she's stringing him along as a backup in case she doesn't find whatever she is looking for. I don't know what to do. I'm torn because it's not my relationship, so I shouldn't get involved, but I also love and care for both of these people so much. The ex is going to get more heartbroken. I can just see it coming while my sister thrives. It makes me sick. What would you do? What have you done if in a similar situation? Any advice for me, my sister, or her ex? Edit, my sister has never cheated on him. Our father cheated on our mother, so my sister is very against cheating. She never agreed to date a woman or anyone while still with her ex because she viewed it as cheating even with his consent. Now they are broken up, so she can't be cheating now. So many of you keep suggesting cheating, so thought I would make it clear she is not that kind of person. Edit, I love my sister and would never abandon her or actually choose a side. I'm just saying I empathize more with her ex than with her right now. I will always be by her side. She's the only family I have right now. She means everything to me. I'm just upset at her stringing him along. I think she was 100% right to break up with him for the reasons and way she did it. The only issues I have are her continuing to live with him, say they might make their way back together, and trying to have us all hang out like nothing has changed. Update. Over a week ago I, 26, posted about my sister's breakup with her ex. In summary, my sister, 24, and her ex, 25, sat us down and told us they were breaking up. My sister did all of the talking and explained she wanted to explore relationships with women and non-binary people. She made it seem like she had simply outgrown the relationship and wanted to try other things, but they were still going to live together and remain friends. I could tell her ex was devastated by this and felt like she was stringing him along based on some comments she had been making. So I felt bad for him and felt like my sister was kinda doing him dirty. Now for the update. I hung out with my sister a few days ago and she told me why they really broke up. She found a picture of someone on his phone in a locked folder. The picture was of someone we both know but wasn't inherently sexual. She refused to say who it was. My sister and her ex have had 5 fights similar to this over the span of their 7-year relationship. He has a porn addiction and tends to masturbate to pictures of other women and did not have interest in sex with my sister. He never changed or worked on it despite promises to do so every time. I've told my sister in the past to break up with him over this, but she said it wasn't worth throwing the whole relationship away over one bad habit. Aside from his porn and sex addiction, he was a really great partner. When my sister found this picture on his phone, it truly was the last straw. They argued about it and broke up. This is vastly different from the story they told me where they had mutually agreed to split because they were better as friends and so my sister could explore her sexuality. This context changed everything. I asked why my sister felt the need to lie about the reason for the breakup and she said she just didn't want me and my fiancé to hate her ex. I kept asking her who the photo was and she wouldn't budge. She also told me her ex downloaded Hinge a few days after their breakup, which I guess is fine but a little weird he moved on so fast after 7 years. Later that day her ex messaged me to clear his name. He was upset. My sister told me he downloaded Hinge. He sent multiple mass texts about how it was a stupid mistake and it didn't mean anything, and then he confessed to hurting my sister as the reason for their breakup. I asked him who the picture was of. He acted confused, so I asked again and he said, "Oh, now I remember," and told me it was me. My sister's ex had a photo of me in a saved locked folder. It was the only photo in that folder. He swears up and down it was an accident and he doesn't know how it ended up there. He said his phone will just do random things like that. I checked and you have to hit 4 buttons and scroll to move pictures into those types of folders. I don't see how it could be accidental. He took the picture of me when I was over at their apartment once. I'm fully clothed in long sleeves and long pants, but I'm laying on my side next to their cat. The photo kind of shows my butt, fully covered, just the pants are tight in that area, but it's not an attractive angle at all, so I don't really see how it could get someone off. Should I be weirded out? He swears it was an accident. My sister is convinced it's intentional. My sister also told me he said odd comments about my beauty and my body before that have always put her off, but it was nothing obvious enough to warrant a conversation. Not sure what that means, TBH. My sister doesn't trust anything he's saying anymore but still says I shouldn't cut him out of my life. I'm getting so confused. What would you do? He's also the best man in my wedding and my sister is the maid of honor. Stories number 3. Aita for wanting simple divorce because I am not ready to take my husband's orphan siblings. I am 24F and my husband 24, both met at our university, when we both were 18. Got married at age of 21. I run a bridal store and he runs a hardware shop. My husband has 2 siblings who are 12 and 10, as his parents struggled fertility issues for a decade and then had 2 children later. His parents died 2 months back in accident. And left a house but not much money, due to bad investments. My husband took his siblings in and I respect him for that. But it isn't something that I signed up for at such young age. Our whole budget has gone to toss and he will be responsible for their education and other things in future. Yes, we both earn well. But still expensive foreign trips, my high-end lifestyle and other things need money. Our own plan was to have 5 years of marriage and plan child around age of 27. I realized it won't be something I want at this point with too much household work and 2 kids to care for. I asked for divorce. And has moved out. There are not much assets as we were saving for a house. And I will grant him an easy divorce. I love him, but I am selfish and at 24. I don't want to do all this. I want to travel and live my life. It hurts, but this isn't something I want. I have moved out and he is asking me to solve this. I can't ask him to give away his siblings to other relatives or social care. I am not that horrible person. But I also don't want to be responsible for them. My parents and siblings are saying that hardships are part of life and I should give my marriage a chance. I don't know. I know I will be very resentful if I force myself into this. Edit. Need to add. People are talking about my vows with him. My vows and commitment was or is with him. If he was in some accident and had lost his limbs, I would have taken care of him. Because I committed to him. So please stop trying to put the equivalence with me not taking responsibility for his siblings. I wasn't committed to his family. I was committed to him only. I am 24. Not ready to roleplay a mother role at this age. Edit. I am depressed with all Itas, but it's okay. That's your opinion. I belong to third world country. I am expected to take care of children. Men barely contribute in child raising. Indeed, I am not mature enough to raise pre-teens at this age. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, NAH. You're being honest about what you want, and forcing yourself into a life you don't want would only lead to resentment. Your husband didn't choose this situation either, but he's stepping up for his siblings because they need him. It's heartbreaking, but it's better to leave now than stay and make everyone miserable. That said, your timing might feel incredibly cold to your husband. He just lost his parents and now his wife is leaving too. While you have every right to prioritize your happiness, don't expect him to see you as anything but selfish in this moment. It's okay to admit this isn't the life you want, but be prepared for people to judge you for it. Reply, but I didn't know how long I could have delayed the inevitable. Delaying it made no sense to me. Because it's better not to give fake hope for a year and pull the plug later on. Commenter 2, you've admitted you are selfish. You've admitted your husband just lost his parents, and a 10 and 12-year-old just lost their parents. That's fine as you've admitted to being selfish. If I were you, I might hold off on considering having children for a very long time since empathy for your husband's siblings is lacking. I don't blame you for being selfish, but it doesn't absolve you as YAH. Reply, having my own children and taking care of them when I am at responsible place in my life is different thing altogether. I have empathy for them. But that doesn't mean I sacrifice my own life and leave my ambitions aside. Edit for the comment below by that screaming banshee foot slave girl or something. When did I say they are at fault? Circumstances are. Yes, I am not ready to be parent and I agree with that. I am not selfless. Having empathy doesn't mean I keep my life aside. And now I won't become single mom. Unwed mother concept isn't accepted in society here. And yes, my own kids will always come first. As a mother, it will be my duty. Yes, there is difference for me. No two ways about it. I hope you have taken the whole neighborhood's kids at your home. I never wanted your validation. I just wanted to read perspectives and I respect every perspective unless they become attacking. Don't scream. I can read your points. Commenter 3, White Yay. Your husband lost his parents and is now trying to keep his family together. You don't up and leave your husband who you committed your life to because it's not an ideal situation. On the flip side, if a few years down the road you got cancer and lost your breasts, would it be okay for your husband to say, you know, hey, this is not what I envisioned for my life. I only want a wife who's healthy and has her boobs and hair, so I'm going to leave and get a divorce. That's just shitty. Reply, if my husband had cancer and lost his limb, I would have still stayed because my commitment was or is to him. But I didn't commit to take care of his siblings and that is something I won't be able to do with my heart. Commenter 4, for better or worse. This is definitely the worse. I know it's hard, but did you marry the idea of the life you wanted, or your husband? Reply, the life we envisioned. We have had our life goals and ambitions which we wanted to achieve. When we started dating as we were friends first, we laid down the practical things beyond love. Both of us were always practical about our life and didn't believe that love is end of all. Love alone don't fulfill your dreams and future plans. We both wanted more in life. Success, money to go hand in hand with our love life. Real life isn't a movie and financial struggle is something I hate and have seen women in my family suffering from it. I don't belong to a first world country where women have many resources in life. And I don't want to struggle financially for next decade. I know I won't be able to manage it. Update: I had to delete my original ID because I got depressed by the comments. But later I realized I am not going to lie to myself and can't please everyone. Also, I will make some points clear in comments. I didn't factor cultural differences between West and Asian expectations in marriage. I was called gold digger. I make my own money and way more than him. No, I have nothing to dig here. Bridal stores are multi-billion business in my country. I make good money. Also, I don't know how tough it is to open business in USA and West, but I started my store during last year of college as attendance wasn't mandatory. Easy to get bank loan and my father gave his empty shop to open it. My husband got lease from his own relative. Promoted our businesses though Insta ads. And it worked out. Third world countries also have upper middle class people who can afford foreign vacations. So please clear your facts. 2. People called me names and that's their perspective. I agree. But I would rather true to myself. I am 24 and I am not ready for such hard task at this age, raising pre-teens. Paying for their schools, college etc. And I would have to delay my own motherhood. Which I want in 3 to 5 years. When I am mentally prepared. People wished me to be infertile. I hope you grow up. Having a kid, when I am mentally prepared, is different from raising pre-teens. Yeah, I failed at my vows, I guess. But staying in resentful marriage gonna harm us more in long run. 3. People said I am selfish for not raising kids. Here know the fact that my husband would barely help in any household task. He already does it rarely. And I am not ready to be servant for next decade. This is not what I want for myself. I know men in your countries do 50-50 chores and that is good thing. I wish I could say same. But I will be responsible for their care. While he will only contribute financially. Anyways, I and my ex met for final discussion. He asked me to come back and take on motherly duties for his siblings. I refused. I said I understand, he can't go back and leave his siblings in others' care. I won't make divorce process tough for him. We started crying. He said he can't handle all housework in his shop. Though we have house help. He feels overwhelmed and he said I can do this better. I said no and I am not gonna do that. He got angry and said then it is best we divorce and he can remarry to some poor and less educated woman, who can help his household than someone educated who can't even help. And called me some colorful names, Randy, equivalent of whore. It pinched, but I didn't argue and we are starting divorce proceedings soon. I know it is tough for him. But I don't want to be bitter mother figure. We have some savings which we will split. That's it. The whole process is mentally draining and I am gonna take some break from dating again and find myself. I got married too young because of puppy love during college days. I wasn't ready for all this and I want to be mentally mature enough next time I marry. Yes, I want kids and I will take care of motherly duties, when the time comes. But at this point in life, that isn't going to happen. I want to enjoy fruit of my labor for some years before I give up my life for my children. The sacrifices it requires, I am not up for it. This is final update and I will delete this ID because I know I am gonna get abused here. That's okay, but I am not ready to be sacrificed at altar. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, yep. That comment from him about marrying a less educated woman. You escaped the life he planned for you. That was going to happen whenever kids came along. I would suggest finding someone less traditional before you remarry. Marriage and children shouldn't be a death sentence to your life, and prenuptial agreements are good ideas. Reply: we don't have prenups here. Commenter 2, I'm kind of confused. You say you want to start having kids in 3 to 5 years, but you don't want to take care of these kids because your partner is bad at domestic work. If he doesn't take care of the house now, why would he do it in 3 to 5 years? Whether you take care of these kids now or have your own in a few years, you'd still be doing it by yourself, so I'm not sure why that idea bothers you so much. Reply: because I want to be mentally and financially ready in some years. I was on birth control and I didn't want to have kid right now. If I have got pregnant, I would have even aborted at this stage in life. Most men are not expected to do baby care. That's why I put a time frame for myself. When I want to be ready for a child. Commenter 3, and if the roles reserved and your parents died and your siblings had to come live with you, would you be okay with your husband divorcing because he didn't sign up for it? Not saying you're an AH, but life sucks and you have to roll with the punches. I wish the husband well. Least he found out now before he had kids with you. Reply, my siblings are adults and I am capable enough to take care of them if they were young and such incident had happened. Men here are not expected to take care of woman's family. People would have praised him for divorcing me and live his life. Commenter 4, I am 99% sure that you're from India because I myself am. I know that it stings to raise 2 children. You're not a whole but yeah, you're selfish and are not fit for a marriage and responsibilities. Should have known it sooner to save time for both guys, and leaving that man when he lost his parents recently is just cruel. I'm gonna downvote it. IDC, but yes, leaving a man with 2 kids when their parents just died is just downright cruel. Even for Indian Gen Z standards. The West here might support your mentality because it's normal for them. I am not saying you were wrong in leaving him for not wanting to responsibilities. If you love him so much, why would someone leave them at their lowest? Reply, and yeah, despite being Indian, you also know how Indian households work. Make money and do your household duties as well, especially if you are not from major city. While men can rest like king most times. Exceptions are there. You seem like Indian man. OFC, you will never understand the suffering of woman. Guys like you comment that our mom gen was last innocent generation because girls today don't take such crap anymore. I have seen women in my family sacrificing all their lives, dream for what? Not even basic respect and taken for granted. I don't want to be like them at all. I have my dreams, ambitions which I want to fulfill. And yeah, I am being selfish. Because I know I will be tied down forever. If I get pregnant too in future. And I will resent it forever. Commenter 5, why did you get married in the first place if you weren't ready to commit? Reply, because we wanted to. Fast love. Fast marriage. Live-in wasn't an option for us, as it is looked down upon here. All these scenarios we never thought about. Editor's note, marking this inconclusive as OOP now has deleted her accounts, we might or might not receive any further updates. Stories number 4. AIO for saying my sister will be a shitty mom if goes on vacation with only 1 son. My 26F, sister, Emma, 30, has 2 kids. Eli, 11M, from a previous relationship, and AJ, 5M, with her husband, John. They've been together for 8 years, married for 7. Eli's father has never been around. My sister doesn't work and John controls their finances. Emma called me to ask if Eli could stay at my place for a week in June. I work from home and told her no problem. I asked why, and she started to tell me how John had booked a vacation for them to Disney World. She started rambling about the rides, AJ meeting the characters, etc. I stopped her and questioned why Eli couldn't come with them. My sister told me that John was only paying for her and AJ. I was like, WTF. And you think that's okay? Emma got defensive and said that he shouldn't be expected to pay for a child that isn't his. I told her that's bull rap and to think of how Eli would feel about this. She told me to get off my high horse and not give her parenting advice, since I don't have kids. I told her that I would watch him, but I don't need to have kids to know she's being a SHTTY mom by doing this. She called me a BTCH and hung up. AIO. Stories number 5. Broke up with my girlfriend over tattoos. She no longer agrees with our breakup. Nuts. I want to preface this with a disclaimer that there is nothing wrong with having tattoos if you want and like them. They aren't my thing. Please don't take this as a condemnation of tattoos or the people that get them as a whole. My ex and I were together about a year. Early on in the relationship she had mentioned wanting to get some tattoos. I told her she had every right to do so since it's her body, but I find tattoos very unattractive and I would likely break up if she went through with it. It became a small fight and she was cold and passive-aggressive about it for a few days, but eventually she said she understood and would not be getting the tattoos done. Fast forward to about 2 months ago and she makes another attempt to get me on board with tattoos. I reiterate my stance and tell her again she can do it, but I won't stick around if she does. I went out of town to visit my cousin for a week and come home to her with a partial sleeve done. Her arm was basically one big scab. I ask her what's going on and she just nonchalantly says her and her best friend had talked and agreed I was being unreasonable, so she went ahead and used my time out of town to get it done so I wouldn't be around to be a buzzkill about it. She said she got as much as the guy was willing to do in one sitting inked, and once she was healed she planned to get it extended. The tattoo was already a deal breaker for me, but the blatant disrespect and casual way she was implying my opinion didn't matter, broke my feelings for her right there. We fought and eventually she just told me to get the hell out and locked herself in the bathroom. Thank God she did this when she did, because I was close to not renewing my lease at my apartment and moving in with her. Packed my shit up and left while she shit-talked me to her best friend on the phone. Dropped her stuff off from my place the next day. She told me I was making a huge mistake and throwing a good thing away for petty reasons. I just handed her the bag and left. That was weeks ago. Didn't hear from her until today. She called me. Here's a very brief summary of the call. Her, okay, the petty drama has run its course. You can move back in and move on, okay? Me, no, we are broken up. It's over permanently. I don't want to get back together. Her, we aren't getting back together. This was just a spat that got out of hand. You freaked out and left in a huff. I know you're just too proud to admit you're wrong, so we'll just call it even and you can come back. Me, no, I told you repeatedly that tattoos are a deal breaker. You did it anyway and then disrespected me on top of that with the way you went about it. We're done. You can move on now. Find a guy that finds your new ink attractive because I find it repulsive and wouldn't be able to look at you or that arm again. Conversation goes in circles for a bit before I hang up. Then she tries sending me some nudes in an attempt to seduce me, but her body does nothing for me now and her sleeve was visible, which, even after it healed, was gross and unflattering. Told her I deleted them and to leave me alone. Blocked. She then messaged me on a snap saying she never agreed to a breakup and I owed her a conversation face to face if I wanted to end things. Blocked again. I know it's bad form to be a guy calling his ex crazy, but this girl is nuts. Edit. I find all the talk about me being shallow pretty funny considering she told me that if I ever gained weight or stopped going to the gym she'd leave me. Hell, she put on weight throughout our entire relationship and it never once made me consider leaving her. I still found her beautiful. When she changed her hair color to colors that I didn't like, I never said a bad word to her about it. I was supportive. I didn't like it, but it wasn't a deal breaker. One last edit, this was great. Sub really is great for getting things off your chest, sub name and whatnot. Had a lot of fun reading responses, and while I didn't need validation to know what I did was right, I still appreciate the supportive folks. The negative ones accusing me of being shallow, controlling, weird, and all sorts of other things because I have a preference were fun too. Didn't change my mind one bit, but I'm glad you guys were able to get those things off your chests as well. Stories number 6. Aita for telling MIL off after SIL asked me to babysit and left the kids overnight without my consent. My, F36, boyfriend of 7 years, Justin, M44, is very devoted to his family. I admired him for it at first, until he made me feel that his sense of obligation and responsibility took from our relationship. His sister, F42, is a mess, but he keeps enabling her. She got pregnant after a few weeks of meeting her now ex, and the relationship failed because they hardly knew each other. They had 2 kids, the last one after 2 years together and public fighting. She says her kids are miracles given that she was previously married and was unable to conceive. Both SIL and her now ex suck. She was aggressive and verbally abusive to him, and he was married and cheating. I'll call him Benny. His wife found out, filed for divorce, and to my surprise, MIL spread the news like it was a great thing. I say I was surprised because MIL is an infidelity survivor herself, like me, and her behavior encouraged SIL to act brazenly. They both acted like it was a huge victory, and that affected my respect for them, and Justin knows it. SIL and Benny went to live in his deceased great-aunt's empty house, which he was supposedly trying to buy. That lasted for a year until he couldn't pay rent anymore, and they ended up living with MIL. Come SIL's first Mother's Day, and they were already giving signs of relationship problems. We spent part of the day at the home of Justin's grandparents. SIL was there, but Ben was not, which threw huge red flags. This is where my true dislike for her began. That day was full of drama. We had to hear her fighting him over the phone, then she took this disgusting picture of her holding her new baby with a smug smile and a caption that said, "Like it or not, I gave him a son, he's a Smith, fake surname, and will carry out the family name because of our deep love for each other." Her talks about his wife became intense. She complained that his ex was the witch keeping Ben from a happy new family. He has a daughter with his wife, and also dialed her number from his phone, and that started a bad situation in which Justin was called to intervene. They had a new baby girl, and more or less 3 months later, Ben walked out on her, reconciled with his wife, and moved away almost a year later. Supposedly, he pays for child support, medical expenses, and other things but never has time to see his kids, whom they established to do visitation at his parents' house and not his own. This has affected her emotionally, and despite my opinion on her, I can understand her pain as a mom and see her kids having to take the back seat. But also, her kids didn't ask to come to this world, and their parents created this situation. This has been happening since 2021, absent dad. SIL has been dating men from apps. The family has been supportive, but sometimes, they get fed up because she has run into married men. One guy drove right past her while with his wife. Another guy who was super religious threw a rant and said that he hated her kids. Justin was so angry that he went to the guy's place of work but couldn't find him. I work a demanding job, and I hardly do anything on weekends except for my own kids. Justin was out of town because he lost his job and had a gig, so they asked me to babysit for Asael, which triggered me, and I absolutely refused. They begged me to be helpful, to try not to judge. That it would be only during the daytime. I gave in, despite having never done this for her before. She was supposed to pick her kids up at 6 p.m. She left them at 10 a.m., having said that she and her date would have a day-long quality time get-to-know-each-other date. I called her at 7 p.m., and she said she was on her way. 8 p.m., she said they stopped for food. By 10 p.m., she was irritated and said she couldn't control other people and that her date was driving and she couldn't force him to drive faster, that I was making her nervous and this had an effect on him and if she were driving I would have caused an accident. Long story short, she never reached out past 11 p.m., I called Mael who said she would talk to her. I fell asleep and woke up to a text saying that she figured it would be too late to come to my place and that she would call in the morning. I called her at 7 a.m. and she didn't pick up. Called later, and Mael answered Asael's phone and said Asael was still asleep, like it's my responsibility to also make sure Asael gets a good rest. I drove the kids to Mael's house, and to my surprise, Justin was there. He was getting ready to have breakfast while he knew that I had been trying to reach his sister and, on top of that, didn't offer to pick up the kids himself. Important, he had told me he would get back on Sunday afternoon. When Mael saw me, she immediately got defensive. She said Asael's new guy sounded very promising and that it was about time that Asael got happy. I told her to shut up, because Asael hasn't changed a bit and she's still building her happiness by fucking everyone over. That I had just wasted the majority of my weekend while helping her. I left, and Justin blew my phone trying to talk after I told him that I was disappointed. I feel betrayed and angry and my trust in him has been damaged. He said that if she left her kids with me it's because she trusts me. And that saying I wasted my weekend reflects that I don't see the kids as my own family. This whole thing, he was hitting from me while I was trying to reach Asael, has done a number on me, mentally. I sent him a text with how I felt and the fact that he didn't do anything. Did I overreact? Edit. My own kids are 14F and 13M, not his kids. Stories number 7. Aita for suspecting my wife of doing something awful at her friend's bachelorette week in Mexico. She spent virtually zero money and took no pictures. I am in the middle of probably the biggest crisis of my adult life and I can barely think, so I apologize in advance if this comes across as really weird or rambly. My wife went to Mexico last week for a friend's bachelorette party and aside for the plane ticket, the hotel and the first day's food and drinks she didn't spend a penny all week. I mean, on the credit card it's as clear as day that on Monday up until about 9 p.m. she was buying dinner, stuff at the hotel shop, drinks at the bar, souvenirs, and then at 9 p.m. she didn't spend another cent the entire week until she was at her layover airport in Dallas. She says it's because her friend took over and paid for everything. I guess this is plausible, but it still is giving me a funny feeling. What is worse is that my wife is a person who posts her entire life on Instagram, on TikTok, mostly Instagram, but if she does anything from get a latte to picking the kids up at school, she will post it either as a picture or as a story. The last thing she posted on TikTok was that trend of people jumping into their vacation from the airport, and after that her social media is blank. I was kind of keeping an eye on it because I was excited for her to go on the trip, and again I guess it's plausible, but it gives me a funny feeling. When she got home I said I can't wait to see all the pics she took, and she really blew me off and said that she just didn't feel like taking pics that week. She has also been incredibly distant, and last night she said she just felt like sleeping on the couch because the AC hits better. This is 100% true, but I swear I heard her talking on the phone in the middle of the night. When I got up to check on her I accidentally tripped over the dog and made a huge racket, so when I got downstairs she appeared to be asleep. I brought all of this up this morning and said I'm not accusing her of anything, but all this put together is making me feel uneasy. I wasn't trying to bait her or fight with her, just get my feelings on the table. She said you are a major fucking asshole for bringing this up on her first day back at work. I said I wasn't trying to pry, just communicating with her, and she said, your communication is prying and I am not discussing this with you ever again. She then took the kids to summer camp and left. Update. Edit. So I realized that her texts probably synced to her iPad, so I just checked. It took me a while to figure out the passcode, but I did. But there was an iMessage at 9:15 the night she got to the resort from a number with no contact info that said, okay, I'll meet you in the lobby. Is the app you said Signal? I looked up Signal and it's kind of like WhatsApp. The iPad doesn't have Signal on it. Edit 2. If you have been following my comments, you've seen that my sister is coming over and she's an insane internet sleuth and is relentless when it comes to this cheating stuff. She also scares me a bit, so I'm hoping this isn't a mistake. I'm going to probably stop responding for a while so we can talk and she can do her thing. I am numb but she can do this. Thanks for everyone and the nice comments and the reality check, it's not looking good. Edit 3, she cheated. My sister was able to get lots of info from the real estate guy and my wife denied it at first but then admitted it. Sorrow it took so long to update but I'm numb. Have literally zero idea what to do now. Edit 4, 4 people looking up our personal stuff. We don't live in Lubbock nor does my wife work for the Lubbock school system. We grew up in the area and went to college there but have long since moved to another community. Please don't try to research this as you may hurt someone who is totally not involved. I'm getting lots of advice to delete this and I don't want to but I may have to. Edit 5, I know people really want updates and we've been talking, arguing, screaming, threatening all day long. I'm more confused than I was this morning, that's for sure. But I'm also confused, exhausted, sad, upset, nervous, and I don't know what to do. I did make a preliminary appointment with a family law attorney tomorrow to talk about protecting assets and how to navigate the legal way ahead regardless of what I chose to do. I will say that there's a subreddit that this was cross-posted to and it may be the most toxic group of people I've ever seen online and I feel really bad for those people. As for the privacy issues, no one has figured out who we are. That's not a challenge by the way. I'm very tired and I doubt people are still invested but if there's still interest I can update either on this post or a new in a few days. I'm really hoping to sleep tonight. My sister still has the kids and they are having a blast and went to the lake with her boyfriend's family today so I'm glad they are in good hands. New update. Good morning everyone. I know it's been a while but as I'm sure you can imagine, this has been the worst week of my life and it's been an absolute whirlwind of activity trying to get things set up in a life that I don't even really recognize anymore. First of all, I am now in the process of getting a legal separation from my wife with the aim of getting divorced. She and I both want to take the process very slow so it's fair to everyone. I do have a personal lawyer who is handling the separation but even she recommends that it will be cheaper and easier for us to do a mediated divorce. She, edit, the lawyer not my wife, has a colleague who has this sort of package deal where we will work with a certified counselor while we are meeting with the mediation lawyer to handle the legal aspects. The goal is to learn to be co-parents and friendly while go through the breakup. I know my wife is hoping to see the counselor with the aim of reconciling. I am doing the counseling so I can learn how to treat her with some sort of respect as the mother of my kids for their benefit. I can't possibly see reconciling but I guess stranger things have happened. Those of you who read along last week know that my sister is one of those internet sleuths who if you tell her a first initial and someone's eye color, she can come up with the person's entire life history in a matter of minutes. I've pretty much let her handle all of the dirty work. She did some research on the guy and he's an absolute piece of shit. He has judgments and liens against him all over the country. He has 6 kids with 4 different women and is delinquent on child support on most of them. It seems like his MO is to just wait until the kids turn 18 and hope they stop coming after him. And this is the guy my wife picked to ruin everything for. My sister did get in touch with his current wife and said that she has pics and text messages that prove he was cheating and so far has not heard back from her. Who knows what's going on with that? My assumption is it's happened so many times, she expects it and or tolerates it but maybe we'll hear back from her. My wife and I are still in the house together until the separation is official and we may continue to be even after the legal separation is done. I just don't know and I figure as long as we can be friendly to each other then it's okay. I had to go away on business last week and when I got back on Saturday it was pretty clear that the fight in her was gone and she wanted to talk and accept full responsibility and was willing to come clean about the whole thing. I told her I really didn't need to hear any more because her affair partner had confessed the whole thing and even sent pics. I think her thing is now is that she's utterly humiliated and has been very quiet, even obsequious as her general manner around the house. It's not really what I want because I didn't get married to have a servant and the change in her normal fiery and funny personality is only a reminder that something is really wrong. Kids are doing fine, they are spending a lot of time with my sister and her boyfriend and his family so hopefully looking back this will just be the summer before their parents got divorced and are missing the turmoil in the house. I guess if there's questions I can try to answer them but that's pretty much what's been going on. The wife responds as you Danny and ad. I am the wayward wife whose infidelity story has gone semi-viral on Reddit. I am now posting about it to get the story straight. I am definitely not the same person who posted the original story. I would imagine a lot of you have seen the posts of a wife cheating while in Mexico that have somewhat blown up. At the risk of further being accused of being as some very derogatory words, of being fake or even of attempting to become cheating influencers, that's the most original I've seen so far, I am going to give my side of the story. First of all, I want to say that I cheated, I will get into detail on that later, so Bubs if you are reading this, a word of warning. I am not making any excuses, I am not asking for forgiveness from my husband or Reddit at large. I am offering my perspective as to why it happened and maybe, just maybe, sleep after 5 days after getting this off my chest. I have read all of my husband's posts and every single one of the thousands of replies he's gotten over the past 2 weeks. I don't know if he knows this or not. We are in the house together, but aside from some logistical details about life, we haven't really spoken. He doesn't want to talk to me, and he certainly doesn't want to hear about my trip. That's totally fair. I say this because while we have some differing perspectives, nothing he has said has been untrue. Having said that, there are some things he has left out. I don't think nefariously, rather to protect our privacy, but I do think they are important. My husband does in fact work 3 jobs, not 2. He has a very well-paying management job for a multinational company, and he and my dad started a business during COVID that has blown up. But he is also a pilot in the military reserves. I'm going to leave it there for privacy reasons. His hard work has provided us a life that I couldn't have even imagined when I was younger, and I appreciate everything that he has done for our family. Last summer he deployed for several months, and I made him promise me that when he got back, we would talk about ways for him to cut back. I didn't which of his jobs he cut back on, but his work schedule made me feel like a roommate, caretaker, and babysitter, and I was very tired of it. The full conversation has never happened. Every time I've brought it up, there's always been an excuse. He can't quit the corporate job because he would lose stock options. He can't quit the reserves because he loves flying too much. He can't quit working with my dad because that would be letting family down. On top of his jobs, he volunteers at every opportunity for our kids. Again, I love that he loves our kids, and he is an amazing father. Like I said, I've read every comment, and you seeker_58, it was almost like you were standing in the room when we had this recent conversation. Your advice to my husband was so spot on. So, I had been completely ignored on the work issue, but 2 weeks before my trip I told him I really needed him to not coach swimming this year, that I had given up, for now, on the work discussion, but please don't volunteer for 6 days a week of 5 a.m. days at the pool. He literally told me, hey, swim season isn't that long, maybe we can do Disney World in the fall. I have first world problems for sure, but I honestly felt like he had punched me right in the gut. I felt so utterly rejected. Having said all of that, I love him. I never planned on divorcing him, and even if he ignored my needs forever, I could muddle through being unhappy because he is a great guy, and I could never replace him. With that, when a friend of mine invited me to go to Mexico, and it really wasn't a bachelorette party, I felt like that might be just the thing to give me a break. On the day I was supposed to leave, I was officially on a vacation day. I work in admin in education, and got an email from out district about a parent complaint that could not wait. There were several errands I was supposed to run, but I spent all that time on the phone and responding to emails. One of those errands was depositing a small check for my dad and my husband's business. I totally forgot it. When my husband got home to drive us to the airport, I could see how disappointed he was in me. He didn't yell at me, but he made several biting comments in front of my friends about how much extra work I'd caused him. I felt like I was being scolded by a parent. When we got to the terminal, I walked around to kiss him goodbye at the driver's side window. He acted like he didn't see me and drove off. I was devastated. I'd kissed him goodbye on hundreds of business trips, flights, reserve weekends and deployments, and the only time I'd ever gone away on my own, he was so upset about a $100 check that he wouldn't kiss me goodbye. I literally cried from that second until about 10 minutes before we landed in Mexico. The flight attendants saw me and started giving me free bottles of booze and were so sweet. Which I guess probably wasn't the best thing because I was pretty drunk all that evening. Here's where things go off the rails. I was very drunk. I was on my first ever trip as an adult with 2 friends who were only too happy to hear me man bash my husband. We were approached by an older man who probably has done this a few times, and he told us that dinner and drinks are on him for the rest of the night. I was just in the perfect mood to accept. My friends ended up going to bed about 10 or so, and I didn't want the good times to stop. He and I moved to a beach bar where I unloaded everything that I said above. He flat out told me that he would make sure I didn't spend a dime that week, and he was happy to show me a good time. I was definitely white girl wasted and telling him way more than I should, but he did not object to walking me back to my room and leaving for the night when I was going to throw up. Fairly early Tuesday he sent me a text, yes on Signal, saying that he had arranged parasailing for the 3 of us. I was excited, but my friends were starting to get a little spidey tingle that something was up. They did go, but they said they wouldn't accept anything more from him. We did some girl stuff that afternoon, but I was a little annoyed with them because they wanted to stay in their rooms and sleep, so I ended up going to dinner with this man. I did not drink that night and actually ended up in my own bed fairly early. Again, there was an early morning text from him, and this time it was ATVs. I said that I would go, but my friends were not. ATVs were okay, but I was pretty happy to get back to the resort, but we really drank a lot. In the early evening, he said he had something he really wanted to show me in his room. Everything in my soul was telling me not to go, but I went. We were lying face down on his bed looking at his iPad, and he got up, and all of a sudden I could feel him kissing the back of my legs, pretty close to my swimsuit. I would consider this cheating absolutely, 100%, without question. My brain was racing, and I was in that moment where it physically felt okay, but I was drunk, and I was very afraid to say no because he was so much bigger than I was, and I felt like I had gotten myself into the situation. Somehow, I rationalized that if he was only going to go down on me then I would be okay, but if he asked me to reciprocate in any way, I was going to have a major issue on my hands. I would say that maybe lasted about 5 to 10 minutes, but he only kissed me on top of my clothes and nothing came off. He then rearranged on the bed and started rubbing himself, yes, himself, on my outstretched hand on the bed. All of a sudden it got very real because it made me realize he was expecting me to reciprocate. I told him I had to go. He promised me it wouldn't happen again and said to please stay in the room because he was so drunk that he was worried about choking on his vomit. I told him that I would stay because I was worried about him, but if he made one more advance towards me I would, probably can't say, but it had to do with his eyes, scream as loud as I could and call security. I fell asleep on the other bed. I left in the morning as he was waking up and he was profusely sorry for what had happened. I said I was too, and that was the last time I spoke with him. He did send me a signal message on Saturday that his family had arrived and asked if I wanted to meet them, which literally made me gag, but I never responded. I spent that entire day praying about what I had done. I have never felt as much shame as I have that day. I envisioned my entire life going down the tubes for 5 minutes of pleasure. The next morning after that I told my friends what had happened. They basically told me that I had to come clean with my husband or they were going to tell him for me. I promised I would tell him. If my timeline is right, that was Friday and I looked into booking a flight to come home early, but for some reason it wasn't really possible, so we made the best of it until we left Monday. Again, I cried the entire flight home, nervous as a dog trying to shit a razor blade, knowing that I had to tell my husband of 10 years, boyfriend of 19 years, that I had done something awful. He and the kids picked me up and of course I didn't say anything then. After the kids were plugged in, I told him I had something I had to tell him. He came back at me with, "Hey, I noticed you didn't spend any money on the trip. Do you have any receipts I can look at to make sure it's not an issue with the credit card?" I love my husband, but I have never felt an instant hot poker of hatred towards a person more than I did him in that moment. He didn't kiss me goodbye over a stupid check, he hadn't seemed that upset that we hadn't talked while I was gone, he hadn't even asked how my trip went, and the first thing he wanted to talk about was making sure his books were in order. Husband and wife work together to solve their problems, and wife posts again later that day. "Hi everyone, I am going to post an update for both of us and then we are going to get off Reddit for a while." Note, she posted to Reddit another 30 times after this. I am so sorry about the grammar in this post. So as crazy as this has gotten, I just got off the phone with a producer for a relatively famous relationship podcast who wants me and my husband to come on and talk about what the past few weeks have been like. My husband and I have been talking and we did consider it at first. After some consideration, we both have come to the conclusion that not only should we not go on a podcast, we probably need to take this out of the public eye entirely. I know he didn't expect his initial post to blow up like it did, let alone his second. I never expected to get so much traction on my follow-ups. We have gotten so many genuinely thoughtful and helpful comments from people who obviously cared about the lives of two strangers. If we end up staying together, and I'm going to be honest and optimistic and say that I think we will, there are a few of you who had the perfect words at the perfect time. I hope that we have both thanked you personally, but if not, please know that I will be eternally grateful. Some of you gave me some tough love which was I needed to hear. Some of you gave him some advice about communicating with me and he followed through. Again, a deepest thank you. Obviously, we have a path ahead of us and neither one of us know where it's going to go. We both have agreed to meet with the mediation team tomorrow. He did file separation paperwork last week, so we need to meet with the legal side of the team to figure out how to proceed with that. We have also agreed that we will approach the counseling side with an open mind but with the hopes of reconciling. Things may change of course, but I am not willing to look down to the movie of our life 20 years from now and say that I didn't fight for someone I truly love, and I know in his heart truly loves me. We had a really nice conversation this afternoon and he said that he isn't so mad at me for what happened in that room, he understands how awful that must have been. He is mad at me because me being so naive, and me being so trusting has gotten me into so many of these situations. I'm lucky I got away with it and it too so long before one finally went bad. He feels like I never listened to him, and because I'm a balloon head, trust me, it sounds sweeter when he says it than it looks when I type it. He's terrified that there may be a day where he has to tell our kids that I won't be their mom anymore because I trusted someone when I shouldn't have. At 32, I've got a lot of growing up to do. We also talked at great length about my issues, and he is going to start looking to see if he can hire an engineer to take his place at he and my dad's company. It will mean we will lose a source of income, but he'll still be on the board and will still be able to provide direction and expertise, but the day-to-day stuff will be dramatically less. As his biggest fan in the world, I am so glad he's not going to quit flying because I know he loves it, and frankly seeing him a flight suit is the sexiest thing in the world. In fact, we have kid number 2 because I got to do a spouse incentive ride when he got checked out in the H-60, and seeing him work the controls and talk so confidentially on the radios made my ovaries burst. I would never want to take that away from him, or me, frankly. As a huge missing puzzle piece, I finally got to see the signal messages that my sister-in-law was able to get from the guy in Mexico when she did her PI job. I can say that he didn't exaggerate or lie about anything, and therefore there's no difference between his version of events and mine. However, his choice of words were that of a guy who was thinking I was contacting him again because there was a shot. For example, his message about the Wednesday night event says, "I had such an amazing time with you in my room. Your company was just what I needed, and ill will, sick, never forget it," so I can see why my husband freaked out. The actual events were that he put his mouth and genitals on my body without consent, and after he apologized, I stayed to make sure his CPAP mask didn't fill up with vomit. I don't want to minimize anything because I put myself in the position. I'm trying to be light about this. He did offer to take me on a cruise in the Mediterranean in August. My sister-in-law joked that maybe she could pass for me and use the offer of a cruise with a real Miami real estate tycoon as leverage to get her boyfriend to finally propose. I'm hoping that myself and Dumbass, one of my pet names for my husband, again it sounds sweeter in person than it reads when I type it, can joke about the fact that I got offered a free cruise someday too. I get that some people won't understand our humor, and that's okay. I really hope it comes back someday because it's one of my favorite things about us. Thank you again to those of you who were thoughtful, sincere, and even a little direct. You probably saved our marriage. All remaining posts are by the wife, where she gives near daily updates of what is going on. The husband updates his posts to say they are working things out. There are lots of posts to view, but this one provided more information about the original incident. Probably the update everyone is most curious about. Yesterday I spoke with the guy wife. Very awkward, pretty enlightening, and very sad all around. Yesterday the kids and I were just doing normal family stuff and exploring the area since I've never been here before. I was driving and got a call from my sister-in-law, and after some telephone tag I finally was able to talk, and she said the other man's wife had finally called her back. I guess first there was some understandable confusion because the wife thought my sister-in-law was me, but once that was all worked out it came out the wife wanted to talk to me. Of course I didn't want to talk in front of my kids, so I got her number, texted, and introduced myself and asked if she could talk later. I know this is a lot of details, but I want to reiterate that I spent the next few hours as nervous as I could be because never in my life had been part of a "hey girl" conversation. She texted back and said that yes, it was important we talk. I made sure it was okay with my husband, and he was back to our Airbnb relatively early, so he took the kids to see Inside Out. He said he was neutral on me talking to her, but he said if it was important to me that he would like me to do it sooner rather than later. I probably stared at her number for 30 minutes before I actually pressed call. She answered right away, and she was much more pleasant than I thought she would be. We introduced ourselves and made some very awkward small talk, but the most interesting thing to come out of that was she's much younger than I thought. I pictured her to be in her 40s or 50s, but she's 35. Something about that made it seem like I was talking to a peer, which made it somewhat more comfortable. She was still very confused as to why my sister-in-law is involved, and I don't know if I did a good job explaining that. She said the reason she has reached out is that she has found some of my pictures on his iPad. I only recall taking one picture with him, but he has taken maybe like 10 or 15 of me walking from the beach chairs we were sitting in to get in and out of the water. This made me feel so violated because I had no idea he was doing that. From her perspective, there was a picture of me riding an ATV, the selfie shot we had taken on the beach, and then the pics of me walking, so it looked like he had deleted a bunch of pics. That's why she finally returned my sister-in-law's call. She was very calm, but after explaining the pics, she bluntly asked if I had tried to have sex with her husband, and for some reason that made the conversation realer than real, if that makes sense, and now there was real anger in her voice. I explained to her every detail I've shared here, about how we met and how he was very generous, but that I never once took that he had any sort of romantic feelings towards me. I did say that my friends were a little suspicious of him, but also said that because I was a late addition to the trip, my expectations were very different than theirs, so I was happy to have some company, and since her husband seemed nice and harmless I didn't think anything of it. I did tell her that most of the time we were together, we talked about our families at home, and he was very clear that she would be joining him that Saturday, and we had even talked about me meeting her. That's how innocent the whole thing seemed to me, She said when she had asked him who I was from the pics, he said at first he denied everything, and finally when she said his story made no sense, edit can't believe I forgot this, and she had gotten the call from my sister-in-law which she initially ignored until she found the pics. Then she demanded he come clean. He told her I had insisted he take me to his room, and I'm going to leave this out because it's really gross, and my impression was that he was bragging to her that younger women want to still perform acts on him. I told her that's not at all what happened and explained my side of the story. She got pretty intense and asked me if my husband knew I went to hotel rooms with strange men. I tried to explain that I'm pretty naive in life and I didn't see anything other than him wanting to show me pics of his car collection. She wanted to know my version of what happened in the room because he had said that I had asked him if I could perform certain acts on him and that he has asked me leave, but I was so drunk I stole his CPAP power cord and wouldn't give it back and then fell asleep on top of it, and he was worried about me making a scene, so he let me sleep it off until the morning. As she was telling me this I was like, holy shit, I know a lot of people find my version incredulous, I can't even fathom anyone seeing as his side as even possible. I asked her how much detail she wanted and she said everything, so I told her exactly what I've said here. I was laying down face down on the bed very close to the door with iPad propped up between us. He was kneeling at the opposite side of the bed swiping the pics and we were at least arm's distance away. He shifted and moved himself more onto the bed, really pressed into my hips and did what I've described many times now. I said I was so taken aback I didn't know what and don't really know how long that lasted, but he moved again and started running himself through his clothes on my hand. I jumped up and told him I was leaving. I told her about the discussion we had about him throwing up in his CPAP mask and him asking me to stay and that I agreed, but he had to stay physically away from. I told her about 5 a.m. we both woke up and that was the last time I saw him. I also mentioned he had texted me on Saturday asking if I wanted to meet she and her daughter that I never responded to. After I told her all that, there was a very long pause and then I could hear her sobbing. I said I was so sorry and the call disconnected. Maybe 10 minutes later she called back and said she was sorry she hung up on me. I told her it was no problem. She asked me to tell the story once again, so I did, and I could hear her getting emotional, so I asked her if she wanted to talk later and she composed herself and said no, she wanted to get this over with. Through tears she basically said this wasn't the first time he's done this. She said about 5 years ago he became functionally impotent and since then he's had like a perv switch, her exact words, go off, and he's been caught doing things like accidentally rubbing against women's breasts or peeping down shirts. He was asked to leave those dentists because he kept fondling the hygienist's leg. She said that she had gotten a call that her daughter's teacher was requesting that her daughter change rooms because he had rubbed himself on the teacher's hand while she had it on desk in a way that was too obvious for it to be a mistake. She is also sure that he's taking creep shots of women and girls at places like water parks and pools, but he's very good at hiding them, so that's why it stood out so much that she had seen my pics walking to the water. I told her how incredibly sorry I was and I didn't want to add anything to what already sounded like a stressful time. She wanted to get into the arrangements she had made with him that he be allowed to go to massage parlors so at least he wouldn't get in trouble, but I had to tell her I just didn't want to hear about that. She said my story was the final straw and she had endured enough, but she's really worried because they are deep in debt. I told her it was so confusing because he splashed money around Mexico like he had limitless amounts. She said he just has credit card after credit card and doesn't really care about the impact to her or their kid. I said I felt really bad and to get her some sort of independent money I would pay her back directly for all 3 of our parasailing, the ATV excursion, and make a fair estimate of how much he spent on dinner and drinks for me and my friends and Venmo her the money. She said that was very much appreciated. I really hope she has her own account set up and he doesn't get to it, but I'm not sure. At least I can feel like we're squared up on the money issue. We talked for a little while longer and she said she has really know where to go or even know where to start. I got on our laptop and helped her look up attorneys who will meet with her for free, how she can rent an apartment and possible government resources for her and McKinney-Vento information through her daughter's school if worst comes to absolute worst. I told her I'd be happy to stay in touch and help her with because while her situation is not exactly like I see with my students, I've had more than my fair share of families who've had to flee, are totally homeless, etc. She said she so appreciated that because she had married this guy who is 19 years old then she is thinking he's fabulously wealthy and now she is very seriously thinking about moving into a week-to-week hotel with her 7-year-old. I don't have much in common with her, but I think we both share that naive optimism of always taking people at face value. I'm just a lot luckier than she because of my circumstances. I talked with her way longer than husband and kids were at the movie so they had to go get ice cream, but of course my husband was on pins and needles about how it went, so after kids were put to bed we talked. He's very happy I paid head back, but of course he thinks I've taken on another project, when I have so much going on already if this lady really does need my help. I said understood his point, but maybe it's something we need to talk about with our counselor because I can't stand to turn away people in need when I'm able to help. He agreed but made me promise until then, the only help I'll offer her is finding resources but she has to do all the legwork. I said that was fair. So yeah, that's the update. I owe a couple of you responses to DMs, I promise I'll get to them. This took a long time and kids are getting up so we need to start our day. The couple goes to therapy, reconciles, and begins having positive life updates. Eventually, the wife starts a family blog to post about everything in their lives. The most recent post, 10 months after the husband's original post, is a positive one. I think we are having a baby today. So here we are April 13th. I woke up this morning having pretty severe contractions. Only this time they are pretty regular. We are timing them and they are lasting for about 30 seconds and coming every 10 to 15 minutes or so. My OB wants me to head in when they start to happen every 5 minutes. I think we are going to have a baby today. Stories number 8. Aita for yelling at a 19-year-old and asking for him to be fired. I, 37M, and my husband, 39M, have been together 11 years. My husband owns a small bookshop and recently has hired a boy to help him. This lad, I'll call him Joe, is gay, and while me and my husband very obviously have no issue with this, Joe seems to do things a lot differently to us. For context, both me and my husband are Irish immigrants to London. We grew up 20 minutes away from each other and went to the same, very Catholic, school. We aren't exactly flamboyant or outwardly gay, and don't exactly do PDA since that's how we were raised. On my lunch break from work I like to visit my husband, bringing him records I think he might like and his coffee. Recently, however, Joe has started making comments. It started small with him saying things about queer joy and how he loves gay couples, which we didn't mind at all. In all fairness, it's a fairly scary world for queer people right now, and I understand seeing a happy married gay couple means a lot for a kid. But then he started getting a little too comfortable for my liking. He started asking things like, "Who's the top?" and calling us the F slur jokingly. I think it's entirely inappropriate to be making those comments to his boss, but my husband told me to let it go. Joe calls us the F slur a lot, which I had brought up a few times telling him calmly to not do that, but when he continued I learned to let go despite my distaste for it since it didn't seem to bother my husband too much. But last Wednesday I lost it. I was up by the counter when Joe came in. He immediately started blathering on about how FY we are, and while my husband chuckled awkwardly, I did not. Joe noticed this and said I was a stick in the mud and repressed. I was trying to keep my cool until he called me a Fenian FT, and I lost it. For anyone who doesn't know, the term Fenian isn't exactly a slur or anything, but it isn't exactly nice either. Me and my husband jokingly call each other Fenians or Paddies from time to time if we've something particularly Irish, and I've never exactly viewed as a very offensive word to me, but something about this English boy made me snap. I asked him if he thought that was an appropriate thing to say to his boss's partner and started shouting, telling him he's way out of play and if he wants to keep his job he should buck up. I left to cool down a bit and 30 minutes later got a call from my husband berating me, saying that Joe was crying and that he's just a kid. I do feel really bad since he's only young, but I still think he needed to be knocked down a step or two. Am I the asshole? Edit. I see a lot of people making comments about the nature of the relationship between Joe and my husband. My husband has asked Joe to stop on my behalf before, but this isn't something that really bothers my husband, and to be fair, it's his workplace, not mine. Comments. Commenter 1. NTA. The kid is 19 and is old enough to know that saying harmful remarks in front of, let alone to address your boss, is not the way to go. Should you have yelled? Maybe not, but I can't say I would have done any better in your position. Honestly, apologize to your husband for the scene you caused. Mention that as long as the kid works there you won't be going to the bookshop for favors or otherwise, as he makes you uncomfortable, and after today you're sure the kid would be uncomfortable as well. Let him know if you're willing to offer the kid an apology. I wouldn't, but maybe you're a bigger person than I am. And let him know that you don't want one from the kid, as you find his behavior and language appealing and don't want anything from him. Commenter 2. Apologizing to this kid for what? He knowingly called OP names after being told not to. Apologizing will only make this idiot young man think he's the victim, as he clearly has never been held accountable for anything. Commenter 3. Saying sorry would just make him think he did nothing wrong. He's not some clueless kid, he knew what he was saying and kept pushing it anyway. Being young isn't an excuse to be disrespectful, especially at work. Honestly, OP held back more than most people would have. Commenter 4. I don't want to draw a conclusion about what Joe's speech would mean in London, but where I live, F implies a specific type of gay man, and it is highly offensive. I don't want to assume that words have the same meanings everywhere, but to me, he really is speaking out of line. To anyone, much less his boss and his partner. I hope he can get his act together, but I understand why you would want to be through with him. NTA. Reply. For me personally, it was more so the Fenian comment that sent me over the edge than the F ones, and from my experience it's essentially an all-encompassing word over here and back home in Ireland lol. Commenter 5. Over here, most people should not have heard the term Fenian outside of watching Peaky Blinders, so they probably wouldn't use it as a slur, but I can definitely follow your point about that one. It sounds like over there, it is more akin to a racial slur, and those are always inappropriate. It sounds like Joe is really going to lengths to be offensive. Commenter 6. I could be reading too much into it, but it sounds sort of like Joe resents these two apparently quiet and bookish Irishmen not being the loud and proud older queer role models he would like to have. Reply. To be honest, I do think that's a part of it. He seemed disappointed when he came in on the first day knowing it's a queer bookshop and we didn't have a gay romance section. He has since added one without my husband's consent. Update. Joe is my husband's son. I won't go too much into the details for both my and their privacy, but I had a major fight with my husband about why he was being so lenient with him and why we didn't have my back in this. We were shouting back and forth until he shouted something about blood being thicker than water. I shout back about him being just some boy and he stopped suddenly. Then he told me, Joe is from an ex-girlfriend of his who's now unable to take care of him, so my husband picked up. He's been paying child support for years. We each have our separate bank accounts, so I didn't even notice. I'm contemplating separation and divorce. Someone I've known for 25 years became a stranger in 10 seconds. I physically got sick thinking back on those sexual remarks that he made to his father. My husband always went white as a ghost when he said those kinds of things, and that was possibly the only thing he actually gave out to him for, but it makes me feel sick all the same. Comments. Commenter 1. The update is absolutely insane. I'm sorry that you got hit with such an overwhelming piece of information. No perfect way to navigate finding out something life-changing like that. Especially NTA now. I wish you the best of luck moving forward after finding out that he was lying for so long, and yes, hiding that information is absolutely lying. Commenter 2. You have a husband problem. Commenter 3. My co-workers and I can casually throw around the word back and forth at each other and it doesn't matter, but I would never use that language around elder lesbians. I never had to deal with the negative affects of that word being used against me. The only reason my peers and I can so casually joke about it now is largely thanks to their generation being the ones who pushed back and loudly fought against hate speech. I consider it the highest form of disrespect to point that language in their direction. It's like pointing at a war-torn veteran with a toy gun and thinking it's funny to joke about shooting them. NTA, kids gotta learn one way or another, and gentle warnings aren't getting through to him. It's time he learns that Pride Month aesthetics aren't what won us our rights. It's the quiet bookshop owners who survived years of pointed abdolery directed at their sexuality and live to provide a small corner where kids like him can feel safe. Stories number 9. Aita told mom she can bill me using the tuition money she stole from me. When I, M33, was preparing to go to uni, my mom confessed that there was no tuition money for me. Through the years my dad would give her cash to deposit, but she only did the first one. She spent the rest. TBH, I wasn't even surprised. I was used to being disappointed by her. She promised that she would pay me back and asked that I never tell me dad. So for 4 years I thanked them for the tuition money while I took out loans. For reasons to do with her narcissism, I have an arm's length relationship with her, but she would say we're pretty close as she assumes my smiling and nodding while she drones on about the same stories is a relationship. We have a family cottage that she puts above everything else. She lives there about 90 days of the year. I've been going there with my GF for about 4 days for a couple summers, which she begrudges as it takes away from her time. My dad supports my going, which is how I pull it off. She recently told me that it was time for me to start paying for some of the maintenance on the cottage since I use it. She actually suggested $1,000, which is wildly disproportionate. I told her she could take it out of the tuition I owe you and we could negotiate the amount with dad. She was speechless. She texted me later to say that it's manipulative to bring up the tuition and to threaten to tell dad. It went on and on. I've been thinking about it, and first, I'm hurt offended that she can't just do a nice thing for me, she has to get something for it. Second, I guess I'm not really over the whole tuition thing. Witta for bringing up ancient history and not paying her for use of the cottage. Edited to add, at the time, it never occurred to me that I should have told him. I thought I was doing the right thing by protecting both of them. That pretty much summarizes my childhood. Stories number 10. Aita for refusing to give my grandma back her wedding ring after she gave it to me, by accident. My grandma, 85F, gave me, 26F, her wedding ring about 6 months ago during this really emotional family dinner where she was talking about getting older and wanting everyone to have something meaningful from her before she goes. She gave me the ring because she said I was the only one who still believed in real love, her words not mine, and honestly I cried when she gave it to me. We hugged and everything, it was a whole moment. Fast forward to last week, my cousin, 29F, gets engaged and suddenly my grandma calls me and says she wants the ring back so she can give it to her. Like she actually said, I didn't mean to give it to you permanently, and that she was just emotional that day. I told her no, not in a rude way, I just said like, hey, that ring meant something to me too, and I've been wearing it every day since she gave it to me. It feels like a piece of her, and it honestly helped me through a breakup recently. She got really weird and said I was being selfish and immature and that the ring was meant to stay in the married side of the family. I'm single BTW. As of now, things might change in the future. Now my whole family is saying I'm stealing from an old woman and taking advantage of her memory loss, which I didn't even know she had. Like, no one mentioned that until now, and my cousin posted some cryptic Insta story about what's meant for you won't be stolen by someone desperate, and I swear it was about me. I feel like if she really gave it to me and meant it at the time, I shouldn't have to give it back just because someone else got engaged. Like, that's not my fault, right? Aita for keeping the ring. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, NTA, but you should give it back. Honestly, I really feel for you. What your grandmother is asking is really shitty. But sadly, it sounds like it'll cause a rift with your grandmother but the rest of your family if you keep it. Besides, would it still be as meaningful to you knowing your grandmother doesn't want you to have it anymore? I would give the ring back and reiterate how disappointed you are when you do, and perhaps take a step back from her for a while. Reply, yeah, I've been thinking about that too. Like, I don't want to hold on to something that causes this much drama, but at the same time it hurts that I'm being treated like I did something wrong when I didn't ask for the ring in the first place. She gave it to me in such a meaningful way, and now it's like that whole moment just meant nothing. I don't even know how to act around her anymore, TBH. I'm just really disappointed. Were other family members present at the time of the conversations when the ring was gifted? Reply, yeah, my mom and uncle were there. They all thought it was sweet then. Now they're acting like I should have known it wasn't that deep. Kinda hurts. NGL. Additional information from OOP. Reply, I've been feeling so gaslit by my family lately, like I really thought I was going crazy. I kept asking myself if I remembered the dinner wrong or if I made the whole thing up in my head, but it was real. I know it was, and I'm not trying to be selfish. I literally just didn't want to give up something that made me feel connected to her. It's all just been a mess. Update. Hey again, Reddit. I posted a bit ago about my grandma giving me her wedding ring during a really emotional family dinner, then asking for it back months later to give to my cousin who just got engaged. So after my post blew up, I was flooded with people saying I wasn't the asshole and that the ring was mine to keep. I felt so seen because for weeks my entire family had been calling me selfish, dramatic, and even manipulative for not giving it back, and one aunt even told me I was taking advantage of an old woman's memory loss, which, side note, grandma has never been officially diagnosed with anything, she just conveniently forgets things when it benefits her. But after sitting with it for a while, I decided to give the ring back. Before y'all scream at me, I didn't do it because I felt guilty, I did it because I realized I didn't want that energy anywhere near me. I don't want cursed vibes. So I gave it back and I handed it to grandma, smiled and said, I hope she appreciates this as much as I did, and y'all, she looked surprised. Not thankful, not emotional, just weirdly smug. Like she won, and then she had the nerve to say, I'm glad you came to your senses after all. I almost took the ring back out of pure spite right there. Fast forward to now. My cousin's wedding is next month and it's turning into a full-blown disaster. They planned this huge extravagant thing with like custom floral arches, matching outfits for the dog, some TikTok aesthetic nonsense, but apparently they're broke now and vendors are ghosting them. What made it even funnier was that my cousin waited so long to start planning that every decent venue in town was already booked. Now they're scrambling, calling up random places like it's a last-minute birthday party. I heard they even considered doing it in someone's backyard and just making it cute with fairy lights. Girl, be serious. Anyway, now they're spiraling and blaming everyone except themselves. Meanwhile, I'm ring-free and drama-free and sleeping great at night. Thanks to everyone who hyped me up on the first post. You helped me keep my sanity. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, you made the decision that felt right for you, and it's not about what others think. As for your cousin's wedding drama, let it play out. You're better off staying out of the mess and focusing on your own peace. Reply, exactly, I just didn't want to carry that weird energy with me anymore. I've done my part now, I'm just sitting back and letting the universe do its thing. Commenter 2, absolutely the right decision. And I hope everybody realized what AHs they'd been. Family really can be the pits, can't they? Now I'm just waiting to find out that your grandma asks your cousin for the ring back right before the wedding. Reply, I wish it would be perfect, but knowing my grandma, she'll double down just to prove a point. That woman holds a grudge like it's a family heirloom too. Commenter 3, Tashi gave it to you, end of story, and you handled it better than most people would have, TBH, especially with how your family reacted. Also, giving it back was probably the best move though, as now you don't have to deal with anything and all the unwanted drama and stress it was causing you, and now just sit back and watch the marriage drama unfold. I have a feeling we haven't seen the last of it. Keep us updated. Reply, At the end of the day it was never about the ring, it was about everyone treating me like I was the villain for having feelings. And now I've seen everyone's true colors, I'll act accordingly. It's wild how fast people show you who they really are when they think you owe them something. Additional information from OOP. Reply. I think what annoyed me the most was how it was never about how I felt, just how inconvenient I was being. Like no one even asked why it hurt to give the ring back, they just assumed I was being difficult, which sucks honestly. But I'm glad I gave it back now. When everything falls apart, no one can say I ruined anything, not my circus, not my clowns. Stories number 11. Aita for refusing to speak to my brother's fiancée after revealing her parenting methods. My brother Tom, 34M, recently got engaged to Melissa, 32F, who has a 6-year-old son, Dylan, Chaged the names. Last weekend, I, 29F, was babysitting Dylan while they went out for dinner. Dylan was playing with some toys when he accidentally broke a glass figurine. He immediately started crying and said, "Please don't tell my mom. She'll give me the quiet time." I asked what quiet time meant, and Dylan explained that when he misbehaves, Melissa makes him kneel facing a wall for an hour, sometimes longer if he cries or moves. If he speaks, she adds more time. This shocked me, but I kept calm and told him accidents happen. When Tom and Melissa returned, I told Tom privately what Dylan had shared. Tom defended her, saying I don't understand parenting and that Dylan is dramatic. He claimed it's just a timeout and I'm overreacting. I later confronted Melissa directly, telling her I thought her quiet time punishment was excessive and potentially abusive. She completely flipped out, saying I had no right to question her parenting when I don't have kids. She accused me of trying to sabotage their relationship and twisting a child's words. Now my entire family is divided. My parents think I should apologize for overstepping, while my sister agrees with me that the punishment sounds problematic. Tom is demanding I apologize to Melissa before their wedding. I refuse to apologize for speaking up about something that seems wrong to me. Making a child kneel silently for extended periods doesn't seem like appropriate discipline. But now I'm uninvited from their wedding and causing family drama. Aita for refusing to let this go and apologize. Stories number 12. My fiancé, 44M, and I, 29F, moved to a certain race-dominated town and he's acting odd. Where to go from here? My fiancé and I moved here 3 weeks ago for his new job. I am so proud of him for this. I helped him during the interview process, shaved his beard, lined it up, gave him certain things I used when I worked in an office. I picked out his clothing, etc. We were excited about the opportunity. Although I'd be 2 hours from my family and friends, we thought it'd be a great start. Plus the pay is amazing. Obviously my mother had some issues with it but wished us the best. My son's father went insane, but I said I would gladly meet him somewhere closer for pickup and drop-offs. I have sole custody, so I double-checked and I was allowed to change school and move our son. He had notice of it but only got mad when I turned down his proposal to date again. He thought my fiancé getting a new job far away meant I'll go back to his cheating, abusive self. Narcissistic. Now my issue is, I'm black, Caribbean, my fiancé is white Canadian. This new city is primarily white. I get way more stares here in the last 3 weeks than I have in my entire life. For example, I was driving to pick up my son from school and this lady almost crashed her car, breaking her neck, staring at me. This other gentleman in his car beside me at a red light, again kept staring at me. Just today I had an older man I saw sitting on his porch, leave his porch to walk 4 houses down, where I parked my car, waiting for my son's bell to ring, to walk next to my car and peep inside. Whether my fiancé wants to admit it or not, I'm being stared at like I'm some kinda new species of human. I started to notice when my fiancé and I go grocery shopping, he says let's separate and meet up when it's time to pay. Odd, I thought, but let it go. We went to Winners, same thing. He said for us to separate. Then again in an antique store, we were getting a lot of looks and he literally just disappeared. Like I did not even know how long he was gone while I was talking to myself before I turned around to see him gone. He claimed he told me he was going to the washroom, but he definitely did not. I know his job is very important in this town and he did mention everyone at his job is all Caucasians. Not a single person of them are any other race, so now I have this gut feeling, he does not want them to know that I am black because he's afraid they'll think of him differently. That's why when we are out he wants to be apart. I brought this up to him and he said he just felt he was being clingy lately, but yet, yesterday we visited old friends and he was all over me. Like he usually is. I feel like this is grounds for a breakup because clearly he's uncomfortable about being seen with me in public, which makes me extremely self-conscious and just sad. I feel pretty much even more alone. Stories number 13. My 24F, BF, 31M, is acting weird after a disagreement. Am I being overly paranoid or are these concerns actually legit? Hey Reddit, throw away as my BF has my main, half edited as I gave up. I'm reaching out because I'm in a bit of a weird spot and could use some advice. Me, 24F, and my boyfriend, 31M, have been together for 3 years, and up until recently, everything was cruising along just fine. But then, we had this argument the other night over something so stupid I can't even believe I'm writing this. We had this ugly old ornament, it wasn't anything fancy, just this piece that meant nothing to me. I accidentally broke it, and I thought, no biggie, accidents happen, you know. Well, he didn't see it that way. He flipped, like, full-on explosion of anger that I never saw coming. It was so out of character, and the whole thing ended with him storming out, leaving me standing there like, what the heck just happened? I don't think it meant anything to him, it's like a $3 duck that we got as a gift. Not from anyone important, just a friend who's still alive and still friends with him. Now, here's where it gets weirder. Since then, he's been hanging out with friends more, or so he says. The issue with this is I don't know these friends, he's being super vague about who they are and where they hang out. Feels like he's intentionally keeping me out of that loop. I don't know any names apart from Peter and apparently Bill. Fake names but similar. All this drama has me feeling disconnected and worried. I love the guy, but the thought of him doing something shady never crossed my mind until now. I want to believe this argument was a one-off, but his ongoing behavior is making it hard to trust that explanation. So, Reddit, am I being overly paranoid, or are these concerns actually legit? How should I tackle this mess? Your advice and insights would be amazing. RN. TLDR, broke a cheap ornament, BF exploded in anger, now he's secretive about hanging out with friends. Feeling disconnected and worried. Wondering if concerns are valid and seeking advice. Update. Hey Reddit, been a bit. This post will be a mess, not edited. Link to previous post here. My original post didn't get any attention, but I thought I would share an update for anyone who cared. We broke up and yes, the fucking duck played a part in it. Short story. Funnily enough, he was using the duck to cheat. That's not a joke, I'm 100% serious. He would put the duck on the window ledge to our house, and when his affair partner saw it she knew it was all clear. They, to my knowledge, had no way of contacting each other so as to not get caught by me or her husband. So when I broke the ornament, he no longer had a way to contact her. Longer story. I took a lot of your advice and used it to apologize to him. It didn't go well, he blew up again spewing the same bullshit as before. I have to apologize BTW, I didn't think I was then and I don't entirely think I am now, but when some of you told me he was an abusive fuck I should have listened. He ended up throwing a lot of our other shit around the place and screaming about how I had ruined everything. It was mostly my stuff, including my new laptop and cracking my phone. I did get hit by a few of the things he threw, but it was mostly books and clothes as well as a jewelry box that thankfully isn't broken. I was in shock maybe. Ick. I ended up grabbing my phone when he stormed into another room and I got out of there and called a friend to pick me up. Got picked up, got some ice and sent a few of my gym friends around there to get my shit the next day. I offered to go with don't worry, they refused to let me. Some of my shit is ruined but I can buy new stuff. So yeah, there's my update. TLDR, we broke up. He was using the duck to cheat by using it to signal to his affair partner. Small stuff, cheating BF, the AP and more. February 11th, 2024. Hey, I can't do any more updates as it's a limited of one, but here's some things I say come up a lot. I doubt it will be seen, but here's some more info in case someone checks. Who was his AP? I don't know. 2. Did you tell his AP's husband? No. I don't know who she is. I know she is married based on comments he made at the time and later over text. One of which asked me to not go to her husband with this. No names were mentioned. 3. Are you going to press charges? No. I know some of you are going to yell at me for this, but I am not pressing charges. 4. How did you know about the duck? He told me at the time, along with telling my friends later when they went to get my stuff and more over text. My cheating ex-BF wants to meet up and talk, what should I do? February 17th, 2024. Hi Reddit. About 2 months ago I, 24F, caught my now ex-boyfriend, 31M, cheating on me after a fight we had over a broken ornament. He got violent, throwing stuff both around our house and at me, all the while screaming at me. A few gym friends went and got my stuff while I stayed elsewhere. I had him blocked on everything I could think of, but he made a new account to contact me. He wants to meet up, in a pubic space by his request, and talk. I'm just sick of all this, can someone give me advice? Stories number 14. Aita for doing nothing for the child my ex-wife had from her affair. Even now that I have primary custody of our kids. 6 years ago I, 36M, learned that my ex-wife, 37F, was cheating on me. I ended our marriage and filed for divorce, but everything was delayed because she was pregnant. Once her child was born and it was established that I was not the biological father, my name was removed from the birth certificate and the bio father's name was added. They were a couple at this point. Throughout we shared 50-50 custody of our 3 children together. My kids were old enough to figure out what happened. I got them therapy eventually after my ex resisted putting them in therapy, and we had talks about everything. I did my best to reassure them that they didn't need to hate anyone for me or reject anyone on my behalf. But their relationship with their mom never recovered, and the relationship with her youngest never existed from what I know. The affair partner took off 3 years ago, and since then my ex-wife has requested that I take an active part in her child's life because I'm so involved in our kids' lives. Each and every time she has made this request via parenting app, one have firmly said no. She tried to take full custody of our kids because I refused to include her youngest, and a judge told her it didn't work like that and I did not have a legal responsibility to her youngest child. I ended up with primary custody of my children a year ago because my ex-wife made some very bad decisions and not only lost the house she was staying in but lost her job, had no savings, and overall was left with next to nothing. After this happened, her requests for me to do something for her child increased. I ignored them for the most part and did as I was instructed to do by my lawyer, and replied to the ones that indicated I was responsible for ensuring the child was adequately cared for. Those I did say no to and reminded her there were places she could go if she needed help feeding her youngest. Our kids still must go to her house for her every other weekend visitation and they hate it. Which angers my ex because they have zero relationship with her youngest, and it angers her that I won't ensure that all of the kids have a good relationship and that her youngest knows what it's like to have a fatherly figure. She said she would allow me to adopt her child if I was willing. Then she said she would at least like me to do something to express some care for her child. Send birthday and Christmas gifts, send food occasionally, offer to let her child join in for some activities. I do none of this. I have asked my kids if they would like to spend more time with their half-sibling or give gifts, but they have always said no, and they told me when they can make the decision not to go to their mom's house they won't have anything to do with her child either. My ex has become more angry because there are things her child has missed out on, and apparently they ask more questions now. Some of her messages on the app are now extremely hostile. There's nothing I can do about this for the moment, but they're saved so if we end up back in court they can be shown. She told me I act like I'm such a good person but I treat a child like shit. I don't feel bad exactly. I know I would have a very hard time being around this child and they're innocent, so I prefer to stay away and not let them feel the weight of my issues with their mother and how they were conceived. But maybe that makes me an awful person. I know at the end of all this is a child who has only got my ex and nobody else, and the child is innocent like I stated. Which brought me here to ask. Aita, stories number 15. Aita for breaking up with my boyfriend after he kept asking to do anal even after I told him I was raped. When I was younger, I was drugged by someone I trusted and they assaulted me in a way that hurt so terribly. I never wanted to think about it again. My BF asked me if we could try anal. I said no and wanted to shut down. He asked me if I'd done it before. I said yes. He said, so you did it for someone else but not me? I told him it wasn't like that it wasn't consensual, and that I didn't want to talk about it again ever. He said okay and promised not to bring it up again. A few days later he brought it up again. He tried to sell it to me. I think I could make it feel good, it could help you move past it if we did it right. I froze, I couldn't breathe. I told him, I told you, don't ask me about this again, I will never want it, I'm not going to change my mind, and he apologized and said he won't ask again. A couple weeks later he proposed it again while we were showering after being intimate. So I broke up with him. He apologized again and said we don't have to end it over this and that we don't have to throw away everything we've built over this. But I told him that we're done. One of my friends said that he was just being naive and I didn't need to break up with him over this, that we could work through it. My ex promised never to bring it up again, but I was done. Stories number 16. Aita for listening to music in the car my husband doesn't like after a concert. This weekend, my teen daughter and I went to see Megan Maroney. My husband wanted to come along even though I told him it could be just a girls' night with my daughter and I. He insisted on going because he didn't want us to be out late by ourselves, even though he does not care for Megan's music. So my daughter and I enjoy the concert so much. She was so excited she almost cried from pure joy. Everything was great, concert ended, we go to our vehicle. My daughter and I are still having a good time, kind of on a post-concert high. I turn one of Megan Maroney's songs on and we start singing along. My husband abruptly turns it off. At first I thought, okay, maybe he just wants some peace as he drives, but he says, turn it on something else. I said, why, we were listening to that. He said, well I don't want to, or someone like that, and starts complaining about how awful Megan Maroney is and how her songs are all man-bashing, etc. I said, whoa buddy, we told you that it could just be a girls' night like you insisted on coming. So we ride home in silence and my daughter is really disappointing. One of our favorite things to do is turn the music on and sing along in the car. Aita for wanting to listen to my music after a concert he didn't even want to be at. Stories number 17. Aita for not defending my son when a random man beat up him and his friends. My 16-year-old son has always been a decent kid, honor roll student, volunteered at school events, close with his grandparents, and never gave us real trouble. My wife and I, and his grandparents, have definitely spoiled him over the years, but he was always respectful and kind until this school year. This year, everything changed. He fell in with a group of kids from the football and wrestling teams who have a reputation for being loud, disrespectful, and just generally bad news. Since then, his grades have dropped, his attitude has gone downhill, and he stopped spending time with family. A few months ago, he and those same friends trashed a movie theater just for laughs. I grounded him hard, no phone, no games, no extracurricular. I also told him he wasn't allowed to hang out with those boys anymore. I even spoke with a few of their parents and we all agreed to keep the boys apart. It was handled calmly, with mutual understanding. Today took things to a whole new level. He had a doctor's appointment in the middle of the school day, so I let him stay home. Afterward, I dropped him off and went to work. At some point in the afternoon, he snuck out and met up with those same friends. They ended up loitering in front of a TJ Maxx, bothering customers going in and out. An elderly employee, Ms. Pearly, who's in her 70s and has worked there forever, came outside holding some hangers and politely asked the boys to leave if they weren't shopping. One of the kids, already filming, started mocking her on camera. My son joined in, booing and saying, "Relax, nobody's getting hurt, and, you're ruining the fun." When she pulled out her walkie-talkie to call security, one of the boys slapped it from her hand. Then my son tried to yank the clothes from her grip. She didn't let go, and in the struggle, she lost her balance and fell backward to the ground. They all laughed. One of them said, "You faking now, huh? Trying to play victim." A bystander came up and asked, "Did you just push that old lady?" The boys immediately denied it, claiming she was acting. Without another word, the man punched my son and two of his friends. The others ran off. The phone filming hit the ground, but you can still hear the fight sounds like the man landed a few more hits before backing off. My son called me, and I rushed to the scene. The man was still there, calm, arms crossed. I asked if he'd hit my son and he said, "I sure as hell did." "Are you the father of the boy who thinks bullying an old woman is funny? What kind of man are you raising?" I was furious. But not at him. After speaking with witnesses and watching the video, I was disgusted by what I saw. And then the police arrived. Since I was the only parent who showed up, my son was arrested on the spot. The other boys were picked up from their homes later that day. They're all currently in jail. When I got home, my wife lost it. She accused me of letting our son get beat and arrested like he was some criminal. Her sister called me a pathetic excuse for a father, and even my own mother told me I should have defended him, no matter what. But after what I saw in that video, I couldn't bring myself to shield him from the consequences. He knew better. He's had warning after warning. It's like they care more about my son getting his karma for a bad thing he did rather than him taunting and bruising an elderly woman. I sat there with them yelling at me, but their voices felt like static. It was like I wasn't even in the room anymore, just stuck in my own head, trying to make sense of everything. I got up without saying a word and walked out the back door. Locked myself in the shed and just sat there. I needed a moment alone to breathe. To process. To try and register what the hell just happened and what it all means. Because right now, I don't know how to feel as a father. A big part of me feels like I've failed. Not just in the "my kid messed up" way but in a deep, gut-level way that makes me question whether I've completely lost my son. Like there's no coming back from this. Aita Reddit. For not defending him. For being a bad father. I just don't know where I went wrong as a man and father. Stories number 18. Aita for asking my parents to pay for my car's registration this year. I, 28, have had my license medically suspended for the 15 months. In that time, my parents have used my car to get to work, go do errands, etc. etc. I have not driven that car at all during these 15 months. I have a family of 7 adults living under the same roof, with only 4 cars. 2 belong to my parents, 1 belongs to my sister and the other 1 belongs to me. I got my car registration bill a few weeks ago, and I asked my parents to pay for the registration this year because my car has essentially been theirs for a year. It makes sense to me that they'd pay it. But when I brought it up, they scoffed and called me entitled. They said they were putting no money towards the payment whatsoever. They got really upset with me. They do only drive it around town, so it's not like they've gone on any day trips or anything. But my car has been a huge help for them. One of the main things is that it's made it where my mom doesn't have to be dropped off at 6 a.m. for her 8 a.m. shifts because of how everyone's schedules work with job school. I'm genuinely surprised they got this mad at me. Is this something I shouldn't expect my parents to do? I'm on a deducted salary while I figure this medical stuff out, so it's not like I want to pay $200 for something I don't even use. Edit, so I don't keep getting asked. My car is fully paid off, by me. I pay insurance on it. I am the sole owner. I pay rent, buy my own groceries and contribute to the house's groceries. My monthly expenses that go to the house are around $400 to $550 depending on the month. There are factors in which the cost changes. I cook all my food. I do the necessary chores for the house as well as my own space. I acknowledge that I am getting a deal by living with my parents. Rent where I live is $1,800 on average for a single apartment. But the house is being split by 7 adults. My parents do pay more at the end of the day, as it is their house. We are basically considered renters, by my mom's own words. As far as the 4-car situation, my sister is the sole user of her car, and my brother's girlfriend uses the 2 cars my parents own because they don't own cars. Using my car is simply because there aren't enough cars to go around. If I was working, they'd have to figure out how to use the 2 cars again. Which is going to be an issue in the near future. My parents are allowed to drive it without being an issue with insurance. I don't remember exactly what was done, but they had to register it as me having a medical issue, so they were temporary users or something like that. It's been over a year since they did that. I don't remember the specifics. But they are able to drive it in the eyes of insurance. I have a great relationship with my parents, which is why this reaction came to me as a surprise. They are great people, in case this post made them sound otherwise. Stories number 19. Aita for leaving my anniversary dinner early after my GF made a joke about settling for me in front of her friends. About a week ago I, 23M, recently had my 5-year anniversary with my GF, 26F. To celebrate we just had a dinner for the 2 of us. It's an informal thing OFC, but we dressed up and stuff. It started out good, and my girlfriend wanted to invite over our friends. That was fine with me, ESP, because they were just nearby, and after an hour they came by, but once her friends joined us, her tone shifted. My girlfriend started making these like weird jokes about me to them. Please note that I'm not really super close to these friends of her, but she said stuff about how, I can't believe we made it 5 years, I thought we would be done by the first. She also said how, I guess when you hit your late 20s, you stop being picky. She's never made these type of jokes before, but all of a sudden she just makes them now. Her friends laughed, but it was just like awkward laughter, so it's not like they were even enjoying it that much. I sorta just smiled along to match everyone, but every time she said another joke, it just kept hurting me a little more and more. But then, my girlfriend made a joke about our daughter, 1F. She said, me settling for me led to our baby, so I played all of my cards right. That was it for me, and I told everyone I wasn't feeling great, and I left the restaurant. I just walked around the area, but I just needed to get away. She texted me later saying I ruined the night and made her look bad in front of her friends. I said sorry, but I told her she was being weird. She said she was just teasing me a bit and that she was sorry. I decided to go back to her and apologize to her friends before driving us back home. In the car we continued to argue, and it was just us going back and forth about how I was being sensitive, she was being weird, etc. A week has passed and it's somewhat behind us now. We're just so busy with other stuff we can't really care about this anymore. But, I still do. I don't understand why she'd make that type of joke on our anniversary of all days. Like I said earlier, she never even makes these jokes, so why'd she feel the need to say it then? But, at the same time, I did kinda ruin our dinner. I made her pay for everything, like I just messed it up. So Aita. Stories number 20. My best friend's girlfriend dragged him, and his MOM, to my house at midnight to confront me about our friendship. I, F28, have been best friends with M28, for 10+ years. We're both Scorpios, born a week apart, and have the kind of friendship that has people constantly questioning if we're more than friends. We're not, we're siblings at this point. My family treats him like one of their own, and vice versa. We've always had one rule, no touching. No hugs unless one of us is in real pain. That's how serious we've been about boundaries. When either of us gets into a relationship, we immediately introduce the partner and set the tone. My boyfriends always got along with him. His girlfriends? Not so much, only 2 ever did. Now enter her. When they started dating, she and I actually got along well. She'd call to chat, I'd visit her at work, and I was genuinely rooting for them, especially since she stood by him when he was broke. But after they broke up, she called me to vent before he could. I stayed out of their relationship business and kept my distance out of respect. Fast forward to October 2024. My best friend got a boost in his career and he got big money, and yes, it comes with money. Suddenly, the ex slithers back into his life, except now she's upgraded her attitude and thinks she's the queen of the council. He tells me they're back together. I'm happy for him and excited to reconnect with her. Me, hey girl. Where have you been? Her, why do you want to know? I've been around. Me, come on, don't be like that. Anyway, congrats on you two getting back together. Her, thank you man. We've got shopping to do. That was the last normal moment. Suddenly, my best friend stops talking to me. No replies. Not even when I sent him an SOS text, something I've never done lightly. When I called him out for not being there for me during a crisis, I told him I'd stop trying altogether. He didn't respond. Then midnight rolls around. I get a knock on the door at 23:45. It's him, his girlfriend, and his mother. I'm already on edge because earlier that day, I'd been digitally assaulted. A stranger video called me and started pleasuring himself. It brought back deep trauma from when I was physically assaulted at age 6. I was not okay. The girlfriend storms in like the big bad wolf, breathing fire. She demands a meeting between my mom and his mom to interrogate our friendship. Why? Because we text, I love you *TCH, and I apparently talk about guys too openly on the phone. She even deleted my SOS text because she thought it was just boy drama. Both moms shut her down hard. They told her no man will ever want to marry someone who wakes up elders in the middle of the night to feed her insecurities. That's when I snapped. I told her exactly why I had reached out that night, and she went dead silent. They left without a word. During this whole hurdle, my best friend tells me they got engaged a month and she asked him not to tell me because seeing me would sicken her. He is rethinking the whole relationship because of how the fiancé-girlfriend reacted to our friendship. Now she wants to apologize because the relationship is threatened, meaning no money to spend on her kid will stop altogether. But I'd rather go pat a titanoboa in the Amazon than hear her out. So, Reddit. Aita for refusing her apology. Update. My best friend's girlfriend dragged him and his mom to my house at midnight to confront me about our friendship. Hey potatoes, it's me again. Thank you so much for all the responses and support on my last post. Honestly, I really thought I was the AH. I've been sitting behind the bush like a lion during hunting season watching, waiting, observing everything from a distance. And I have got an update. So, it's been a month since the midnight madness, and I've kept my distance. No calls, no texts. Just vibes and self-respect. That was until 2 days ago. I achieved a big win and decided to share the moment with my best friend. We had a quick celebratory call, then I organized an outing for the friend group since one of us just graduated. My best friend agreed to come, and I made it crystal clear that his girlfriend-fiancé entanglement was not invited, to avoid any drama. We scheduled the hangout for the last Saturday of the month. Now here's where it gets juicy. Yesterday at exactly 22:03 p.m., while I was laughing on a TikTok live, shout out to the TikTok crew, I get a call from him. Here's how it went. Me, you calling at this hour? Someone better be dead, in jail, in the hospital or missing, I chuckled, trying to lighten the mood. Him, in the most defeated, cold, distant voice, hey friend. And instantly I knew. I knew it had to be about the woman with 100 titles. He continues. She says your name is still a problem. She's claiming we boinked and that we're in love. She's demanding I end the friendship if I want to keep her. I took a deep breath and said what had been sitting on my heart for a while. When you two first met, you were broke, and she was the sweetest person I'd ever met. Now you're settled, doing well for yourself, and suddenly I'm a threat. She's judging my character without even knowing me. Do what you need to do, but don't come running when things fall apart. I won't be able to save you. He paused, and said, if those are the consequences I have to bear, losing your friendship, then it's okay. Then he hung up, just like that. 10+ years of memories. Gone with a single sentence. I stared at the screen for a second. Then I turned back to the TikTok live like nothing happened, because what else could I do? Yeah, I'm hurt. I'm really upset. I lost someone I've grown up with. Someone who was my person. But I know my worth. And I refuse to shrink myself to make someone else feel secure in their relationship. If you ever read this, my guy, I love you. Always will. But I hope she was worth it. Thank you again to all my Reddit potatoes for shedding light and reminding me I wasn't in the wrong. You're all the real MVPs. Until the next episode of As the Friendship Turns. Stories number 21. Got hired because they have another woman whom they like and thought we were similar. Day 3 at a new job. New boss just dropped the bomb lol. Boss, I set up a meeting for you on Friday with this other woman, because she is very good at her role, she's the best in her role in our company, and we actually hired you because we thought you were similar to her. We want to replicate the success, so you two should work closely with each other. Another woman in my role. Whom they like. Whom they like so much that they want more women in this role now. Can you believe this? It's been 15 years of me being the only woman in any room and hearing about it. In fact, a few years ago I gave up on this career altogether. Ladies. Whoever that woman is, I love her already. Keep paving the way for the rest of us. You never know who's watching. Hard work pays off. Comments. Commenter 1. Reading this gave me such joy. I wish you the best at this job, and good luck for meeting her. I'm sure you'll get along. Reply, even if we don't, that will be fine. I'm enjoying this moment. Commenter 2. It's amazing how one person's success can open doors for others. This kind of ripple effect is what changes industries. Commenter 3. Exactly. It's also why I always take the risk. Even if I'm the only woman at something, it could show other women it's okay and we got this. Never alone. Update. So I met this other woman today. And she was lovely. The woman who's made such an impact at a billion-dollar company that they now want to hire more women was just so humble. She's like, yeah, no thanks, I do what I can, I get a ton of help, this person is great, that person is great, this process and that process, this system and that system. I made sure to deliver everything you guys asked me to tell her, and she got a little uncomfortable, so I didn't push it too much, but told her that she must know that she is making a huge impact and I have endless respect for her already. I low-key expected her to be a hard ass, and maybe she is on the inside, but on the outside she's just a nice person. We both had no makeup on today, it was Friday, messy hair, sweatshirts, and it was cool to connect. If we're gonna be best friends, but she was very nice. That's it, just wanted to update y'all. Comments. Commenter. The only acceptable further plot twist would be that she's in this subreddit. Stories number 22. Aita for asking to be given my money back after being told they don't want me to come on holiday with them. My girlfriend and I had been arguing on off for 18 months, with the last 2 months being especially tense, resulting in her very nearly leaving me this weekend. This was made even more of a tense situation as we have booked to go away with her whole family next week that we have all chipped in towards, £222, and she couldn't decide whether she felt comfortable with me coming or not. She's finally said she's happy for me to come still as we've had some really productive and hopeful conversations, but now her family have said that they're not comfortable with me coming anymore after seeing her upset so long, as they think it will be awkward and make the holiday tense. I do understand this isn't the issue, but the whole time my partner couldn't decide whether she was happy for me to come or not. It wasn't once mentioned by her parents that even if she was happy they still wouldn't be. Am I the asshole for asking for my £222 back? I've had to take holiday off work. That's now going to be awkward for my manager to cancel and find me jobs last minute as we're meant to be going next week, and I've had no choice in whether I'm coming or not. Don't want to still be paying whilst everyone else goes and keeps their cheaper split accommodation cost. I have no idea how to handle this and really need some help. The last thing I want to do is drive another wedge between my girlfriend and I or make her feel like she's stuck in the middle. She is really sad about this too and didn't see it coming at all. For context, there were 6 of us going in total, so £222 each. Edit. Forgot to add we're also meant all be seeing a show. I've put £60 on Friday, which I haven't heard anything about yet. Also cost is accommodation only, no flights, smiley face. A lot of people have been asking for context to me writing 18 months of arguing. I don't see that we've been arguing for 18 months at all, that's what she says, but that we've had tension for 10-ish months, mostly over her looking at doing 2-year courses and renting in London, 2 hours away, which she hasn't seemed entirely sure on, so has caused anxiety and stress back and forth due to my worries. Some of which is stuff that I need to work on and she accepts has made worse by being distant as a defense mechanism. It's too much to explain in one edit, haha, but at the crux she's had a really hard last 10 years in life with mental health and feels like my own anxieties around long distance etc. are causing her to be restricted and not be free to explore all options. Now she's feeling better slowly. I've never said she can't do anything ever, just had worries about certain things like money and long-term goals. No kids, both having to live with parents as saving, both trying to save for deposit. I know, ignore how much of a bad idea this sounds at the current moment. Edit. Thought I should mention, which makes things a bit more complicated, I just realized. Before my partner and I had all the really good conversations and she had said that we will try and make whales work and it could be alright me coming, I had said to just forget about it and the money that I wouldn't come because I could see how much pressure it was putting on here to make her mind up about the relationship, me saying I wouldn't be happy to not come and that I'd like my money back if she did make that decision. I was going to settle for not asking for the money, but now it's her parents making that decision for me not to come. It really doesn't feel fair to me. Stories number 23. I held on too long and all it did was hurt my daughter. My daughter had multiple congenital birth defects that led to a lifetime of complications. With medically complex kids you fix one problem and create two more. She lived 11 years. It was probably 9 years too long. She lived most of her life in hospitals. Literally months at a time. She would sometimes be home a week or two and then end up back in. I don't think she ever spent more than 2 consecutive months out of the hospital in her entire life, until she went on palliative care. She was more comfortable in the hospital than anywhere else. How sad is that? She was the warrior kid. That was her whole identity. Making cards for her nurses and decorating her medical equipment and being tough with a capital T. That was all she had. Never went to school, not in any meaningful capacity. Never played a sport or an instrument. Never had any real friends to speak of. Never had the health to take up any real hobbies. Just an entire life made up of surgeries, shots and nurses and fucking medical equipment to decorate. I gave her a pathetic life. There wasn't a single intervention I wasn't willing to put her through to buy more time. She was the happiest, most accepting kid I've ever met, but in the last 6 months she was done. I refused to listen. She asked me over and over again if she could just stop. I would push until she shut up and went along with what I wanted. Why did I do that? She wanted to make me happy, but she knew she was done. Selfish. She died incredibly agitated and upset. I think she was scared to let go because she knew what it was going to do to me. I wasn't strong enough to let go. I'm so sorry. Stories number 24. Advice for younger guys, hookup versus husband material. So recently I've been seeing multiple posts from guys asking what the deal is with girls calling them husband material but not worth a hookup, and I figured I'd throw my advice out there for younger guys. Basically, when I was in my late teens early 20s I experienced the insult comment that I would make great a husband but was not hookup material. For any women reading this, yes, saying this to a guy is an insult. This hits directly at a man's self-worth. What I did to change this. So here's what worked for me, and it may work for you as well, if you want to change women's perception of you. I started taking working out more seriously. I wasn't fat or anything, but I made sure I ate better, exercised more. Not only did this improve my overall appearance, but it made me feel a bit better about myself. Changed my hairstyle and styled my beard. Get yourself a good haircut that suits your facial structure, this makes a noticeable difference. Also, I knew I didn't have the best jawline, so I grew a beard, keep it neat. Gave women I was interested in talking to way less attention. Basically, if I got a TXT from a woman I'd wait at least 30 minutes to 1 hour to respond, at least create the illusion you're always busy. Always be confident. Honestly, fake it till you make it. All of this combined made a huge difference. I went from being with one woman, who I was in a long-term relationship with, to hooking up with 5 different women within the span of 2 months. The most satisfying was a woman who I had tried to get go on a date with me 4 months before the changes. She had told me, "You're really great, but I'm trying to have fun right now." Well, I ran into her after bettering myself and we hooked up after a couple days of talking, and she wanted to keep seeing me, but I ghosted her. Needless to say, it was a lot of fun finally being the guy women wanted physical, but in a way it is kind of depressing long term. To make a long story short, I ended up meeting my now wife, been together 11 years now, and am very happy with life. Some keys: value yourself, don't date girls who viewed you as a safe option but not attractive, be the best you that you can be. Stories number 25. Aita for leaving my husband after I found out the girl he claimed was his cousin is actually his daughter. I have been married to my husband for 10 years. Early in our marriage, he told me a touching story about his late uncle, a man who helped him during a difficult time in his life back home. He said the uncle and his wife had both passed away and left behind a daughter with no one to care for her. He said he wanted to honor his uncle by taking care of her, but she was still in our home country. We talked about it, and I agreed we should help. We both contributed money to bring her to the US, helped her settle in, and made her part of our household. She's been with us for several years now. She always called him uncle, and referred to me as auntie, and I treated her like she was family. I even started seeing her like a daughter. Now, fast forward to a couple of weeks ago, I got sick and she went to pick up some medication for me. While she was out, her phone kept ringing over and over again. I eventually picked it up because I thought it might be important. It was a woman on the other end. She asked for the girl, and when I told her she wasn't around, she said something that knocked the breath out of me. She asked about her daughter and mentioned my husband by name, saying he was the father. Then she threatened that if he didn't allow her to see her daughter, she would involve the police. I was stunned. When the girl came back, I asked her directly who her father was. She hesitated, then told me the truth: my husband is her biological father. I felt sick. All this time, he let me believe she was his cousin's child. He let me open my heart and home to her under false pretenses. He had a whole child before we got married and never told me. He didn't even come clean when she moved in. I had to find out by accident. Through her mother no less. When I confronted him, he tried to defend it by saying he thought I'd leave him if I knew the truth. He said he just wanted to be close to his daughter without complicating things. But to me, the lie is the complication. It's the betrayal that hurts the most. He robbed me of my right to choose whether I wanted to be part of this situation. And I can't stay with someone I can't trust anymore, so I left. I packed up and left the house. Now I'm getting calls from his family saying I overreacted, that I'm breaking the home, that he did it for love. Some have even said I was cruel to abandon a girl who sees me as her mother figure. Stories number 26. Tofu by electing to be Hitler's lawyer in a hypothetical scenario for my philosophy class. I need to preface this immediately by saying that I do not like Hitler in any way. I denounce him entirely and am not sympathetic to a single thing about him. For my philosophy class we had to come up with a scenario where we defend the indefensible. It was an exercise in morals. People went with more tame things like cannibalism and capital punishment. I decided that I would really challenge myself and came up with the hypothetical that Hitler did not kill himself in his bunker and was to stand trial at Nuremberg and I was his lawyer. This really backfired for me, not only in the class but also my social life. The really bad part of all this is that we had to have an opposing side to defend against. I got paired with a guy who was really dumb. I don't mean to use that word in a mean way, but for some reason was in the class. Philosophy is for really smart people. His opening statement was that Hitler attacked the whole world, he fought the world. I then responded with, this is a false narrative, Hitler only declared war on Poland. My opponent then proceeded to make a really weird face and adjust his AirPods. He proceeded to look around the room awkwardly. Hitler attacked the Jews. I proceeded to respond with, Hitler tried to get rid of the Jews in non-lethal ways before he killed them. He then got emotional and responded with, Hitler was fucking evil bro. What's your problem? I promptly responded with, evil is an abstract concept, it's not objective, I have been reading a lot of Nietzsche. The silence is defeating after I say this, it's only broken when the teacher says, alright that's enough of this, we're going to move on now. I try to say that I am not a fan of Hitler but it is completely ignored because a Jewish student stormed out of the classroom. TLDR, I tried to defend the indefensible in my philosophy class and ended up impacting my life negatively. Stories number 27. The man I love has a past with my niece. I've been with my boyfriend for TW years. I thought everything was fine, until now. Friday, we had this family thing for my niece's grad. She's been away, so everyone was hyped to see her again. She walks in, and I'm in the kitchen with my boyfriend. Everything's chill until I notice her stop like, dead in her tracks. And then my boyfriend looks at her like he's just seen a ghost. I'm standing there, what in the actual hell is happening right now? But it gets worse. My niece barely says hi, and bolts to the living room. My boyfriend starts acting all weird, avoiding eye contact. The entire night was a mess. Every time she walked past him, they both acted like the other didn't exist. Really? Do they think I'm blind? So after everyone leaves, I couldn't take it anymore. I asked him straight up, you know my niece? He freezes, stares at me for a second, and then says, yeah but it is not what you think. Excuse me? So naturally, I am, okay, then what is it? He said to me, complicated. Fast forward to the next day, my niece calls me out of nowhere. Her voice is shaky, and asks if we can meet up. At this point, I already know it's about him. So we meet, and she's a mess, playing with her hair, acting like she's about to confess. And then she finally says this, I work as an actress. I'm like, okay, waiting for her to get to the point. Then she drops this, in adult films. I swear, my brain just short-circuited. But she wasn't done. Your boyfriend was one of the producers on a few of the projects I worked on. I couldn't even speak. I am feeling my chest is caving in and then she says, he still owes me money. Cringe. Edit. For everyone is already invested TLDR, well IDK. I have spent the last few days trying to process everything. I couldn't look at him the same way after she told me. When she said those words, he still owes me money for her. So I've distanced myself from him. I haven't ended things, yet, for all the nosy people dying to know. But every time he calls or texts, I feel my skin crawl. Was I blind or stupid? I don't think I'm the savior she needs, but I want to help her get what she's owed. It's the least I can do after unknowingly bringing this man into her life again. But now there is a problem. My niece seems like she is gone. No calls, no texts, nothing. Nobody in the family has seen her or talked to. I've been calling non-stop, even showing up at her place. Nothing. Oh Lord, last night, my BF offered to help me find her. He says he has an idea of where she might be, but he warned me to keep the family calm and not involved. Something about this whole thing is off. His sudden eagerness to help. So now, I am sitting in my car, outside his place, waiting to hear where he thinks she is. Update. Alright. He finally told me where my niece is. He tells me to calm down and says he found out through some of his contacts that she got a new job. Yeah, a job, oh wayo, a round of applauses. Apparently, it's some reality TV show, like Big Siblings, but for an adult audience. If she wins, she could walk away with a ton of money. And, oh, by the way, he's broke and can't pay her back what he owes, so he's basically hoping Mia wins the show to settle things. Could you believe this? Stories number 28. I am totally destroyed due to the way my wife left the marriage. Potential tear-jerker. My wife cheated on me and left me for her lover, now husband. It's been 5 years ever since. Our daughter is 18 years old, and our son is now 15. 5 years since she left and I discovered everything. She justified her cheating by saying I was the only partner she ever had and that she was no longer sexually attracted to me. I've known this woman since we were 12 years old and yet she threw me always as if I was trash. Even since she left, I am not the same person. I am basically a robot. I feel like some kind of bot that is acting according to its program. I used to be an outdoors kind of guy, but now I hardly ever leave my home. I also have a severe body dysmorphia ever since. I am currently in the best shape of my life. I get regular haircuts. Now I pay attention to way I dress more than ever. I dress nice even when I have to go to the supermarket. I wear cologne. I am always clean, but yet I feel fat, I feel ugly, I feel dirty and disgusting. I am massively insecure. I don't pursue a new relationship because I am terrified of the possibility of getting played again. I mean, if my former childhood friend was capable of doing what she did to me, who can I trust as a future girlfriend wife? She was horrible to me during the divorce process. I hate her, I truly do. I've never hated someone so passionately. During the last 2 years, she has tried to act friendly to me, saying stuff like she still feels love for me as the father of her children. I don't reply to this kind of messages, absolute minimum communication, but I don't know, I guess I am just rambling. My daughter wants me to be closer to her mom, but why would I do that? Why can't she understand how I feel? Stories number 29. Aita for holding firm on my boundaries after I found out my fiancé violated them. So my F34 fiancé, M40, has a female friend who has been a problem since the beginning. Backstory: when he introduced me to his parents, we also added each other on social media. He warned me that she was his cheerleader and a big fan of his. Not long after we had added each other, I started getting notifications from her liking my posts and pictures in multiple groups from pretty much all social media I have. Turns out she had thought they were dating, exclusively online. They have never met in person. Things blew up and she blocked me and him. Later she unblocked him and they started communicating again. I set the boundaries that she cannot have me blocked on anything and I don't want him to discuss our relationship with her, ever. Like he can talk to literally anyone and everyone except for her. 2.5 years have gone by and I discovered after checking his phone, we have an open phone policy and he has been unfaithful in the past, that he bashed me and my children to her after we had a difficult weekend together working a hay field. She responded by continuing to bash me and even said her own children would have done so much better. I have told him in the past that she wants to keep the friendship going so she has access to him in case we break up. That she will do whatever she can to sabotage any romantic relationship he is in because she wants that with him. He claims that will never happen because he has no interest in her romantically and it's unfair to ask that he end the friendship and any contact because he only has a few friends. He is also angry that I went in his phone and found the incriminating evidence. I reminded him that we have an open phone policy. He has even offered in the past to let me log into his social media, and that I would have no problem with him ever looking through my phone because he will never find anything bad because I don't behave in that way. I expressed to him that I will not be disrespected like that and if he continues to choose violating my boundaries that we will not continue our relationship. TLDR: my fiancé bashed me to a female friend who wants to be in a romantic relationship with him after I set the boundary that at the very least he is not to talk to her about me or our relationship. I held the boundary so AITA. Stories number 30. My parents think I owe them my paycheck because they raised me. I, 19F, just landed my first full-time job after college. It's not glamorous, but it pays decently and I've finally been able to move out. I was so proud of myself until my parents found out how much I make. Out of nowhere, they started hinting that I should give back and help them with their bills. At first, I didn't mind helping out here and there. I paid for their internet one month and sent groceries another time. But then it escalated. Last week, my mom called me crying because I didn't send money for her monthly support. I was confused. She told me that since they raised me, I owe them a return on their investment. My dad then texted me a breakdown of how much they spent raising me and suggested a monthly repayment plan. I thought he was joking. He wasn't. They both keep saying, if it wasn't for us, you wouldn't be where you are. True, but does that mean I now owe them 30% of my paycheck every month for the next few years? I love my parents, but I worked hard to be financially independent. I have my own rent, student loans, and savings goals. I feel guilty, but also angry. I didn't sign up to be their retirement plan. Has anyone else dealt with this? How do you set boundaries without feeling like the ungrateful child? Stories number 31. As a student, 28F, how do I tell my BF, 35M, that I can only afford my flight as his +1? My boyfriend was invited to a destination wedding, and has turned it into a vacation. So after the wedding, he's spending 3 days at an Airbnb by the beach. We started dating about a month ago, and he's asked me to be his +1. I said yes, and he sent me over the flight information to book my ticket. He, 35M, has a full-time job and lives at home. I, 28F, am a student living on my own working multiple part-time jobs. The round-trip ticket will cost me about $600, which is much more than I thought it would. How do I tell him that's really all I can afford? I assume he booked the accommodation anyways, so I don't expect him to ask me to split it, but I also got out of a 50-50 relationship where he would 100% use me to cheapen his trip, so I'm paranoid. I can buy groceries and whatnot while I'm away, but any more than that and I'll be in a bad spot. Any suggestions is appreciated. Stories number 32. Traditional wives versus the tradwife fantasy. I was reading an article about the tradwife influencers and how they are selling this cushy fantasy of a woman being a stay-at-home mother, cleaning a home and caring for children, yet she's making bank on ad revenue with her personal brand, and it made me think about my own grandmother who was born in the late 1920s in rural eastern Canada. My paternal grandmother did not go to high school and married a man 20 years older than her when she was 14. First child at 16, but ended up with only 3 kids and 1 stillborn. There is a 14-year age gap between my father and uncle, so my grandmother was a stay-at-home mother, yeah. She relied on her husband to make money and cared for her children, yeah. Well, no, she worked not just at home but she received money for babysitting neighborhood kids and going over to clean other people's houses while my father was growing up. She didn't make a lot of money and they mostly relied on her husband with his union job, but she still worked for money besides her responsibilities at home. I say this because I find that the tradwife influencers are trying to sell a fantasy to their audiences that didn't exist, at least not for working class people, much less poor people. This idea that a woman can just simply raise children, cook and clean in their own home isn't a reality that is attainable to most people, whether than is a woman who wants that for herself or a man who wants a tradwife. My grandmother lost her husband during a time before the 21st century when money in the bank was making 20% interest. She actually was able to live off of much of her husband's life insurance of 100,000 Canadian dollars until her old age security and her widowed daughter moved back in with her, but that's not possible nowadays. And luckily her and her family were able to trick her husband into adding her name to the house when he was at the end of his life in the hospital, because he didn't want her to be on the deed for some reason. He died before I was born, so I know little about him as a person, and by the time I was old enough to remember or even ask her about what she thought of her husband, she was having issues with hearing in her memory. A woman living in an apartment I was working in last year or the year before had apparently lost her husband to a severe allergic reaction to a bee sting. They had 3 children together, and I'm not aware of her personal finances, but it reminded me that it didn't matter how much they loved each other and how much he supported her and their children, he just died one day suddenly. If his life insurance policy is 100,000 Canadian dollars today, how long would that last a family of 4? If she's not working already, she will have to if she wants to keep a roof over her and her children's heads. Working has always been part of women's life, even though much of it throughout history was unpaid. My grandmother's house growing up didn't have plumbing, she had an outhouse, but laundry still has to be done with a washboard even when it's cold. I think many people have forgotten the work that women have provided silently and have taken modern luxuries for granted. Being a stay-at-home mother who doesn't work is a fantasy unless one has significant wealth, assuming that the person they are wholly dependent on doesn't leave them on the side of the road with nothing. Sure, there are women out there living the traditional lifestyle, but that's not something that women should be expected to pursue, as the success stories never outweigh the women who can't leave even when they are abused, or the women who ended up living in a car with her kids, or the women who work like hell but aren't acknowledged or appreciated. This isn't even touching on how most men would not be capable of financially supporting a wife and children alone. It's just not realistic, and these tradwife influencers plus the male influencers who also push the stay-at-home woman narratives are just selling people a fantasy that gets them ad revenue in their business. They really don't care about people actually living well off their advice. Stories number 33. My roommate, over 18, went missing after going on a hookup. He's been missing for 20 days. The police say they can't do anything BC, they don't have a lead. What do we do? His parents don't want to get involved, he's gay and they are religious. From a legal standpoint, is there any way to force the police to get involved? He could be dead or have been sex trafficked. Regardless, we need closure. If this is the wrong subreddit, please direct me to the correct one. Location: we are in the United States, in Texas. All question and information should go to you, Acid Asher. I made this post for them, but they are the actual person who needs the information. More information: I'm one of the roommates. He's been my friend for several years. He's located in Houston, Texas. He's 21, black and queer. He left everything with him including his wallet. All he brought with him was his ID. His last text message to me was March 26 at 9:14 p.m. He told me he was spending the night at a friend's house. His phone was disconnected around this time even though he just bought a new one that week. He hasn't been active on any social media since that night. He frequently uses Grindr to go on hookups. His mom was extremely abusive to him growing up, but I reluctantly contacted her. She told me he was in the hospital, so I believed her. I kept in contact and she kept telling me he was getting better and why I believed her. Then she asked me about 2 weeks later to pick up his PS5 because she paid for it and she wants it back. I questioned what hospital he's at and what's going on, and she said he's moving back in with her, etc. He would never do that, and all of us and his other friends agree. He wouldn't want to live with her. I called the police. They came to my house to file the missing persons report with me. They called his mom, and the police said they couldn't tell me what was said on the phone except that my friend is not with her and they will continue with the missing persons report. His mom was very rude to me when I kept asking where he was, saying I was accusing her of doing something to him and threatening to sue me. She said she doesn't owe me any explanation as to where he is or if something happened. He's not arrested as far as I know and not in any hospitals just as far as I know. He is not the type of person to run away randomly. He has not been in contact with anybody at all. I have contacted everyone that I can, he just vanished. This is completely out of character for him. Stories number 34. My husband shames me every time I poop and I'm so over it. I know this might sound ridiculous to some people, but it's honestly starting to mess with my head. My husband and I have been married for 5 years, and every single time he realizes I've pooped, he has to make a comment. Every time. I've tried everything, air freshener, opening the window, even using the other bathroom in the house, but he always notices. And instead of just moving on like a normal adult, he says something like, gross, or, that's so unattractive. It's gotten so bad that I literally avoid going in my own home. I try to only go at work, which is insane, because it's my house too and I should be comfortable here. Tonight, I had a bad case of indigestion. I was already uncomfortable, and instead of asking if I was okay or just leaving me alone, he made another comment. He always asks if I have to go number 2 the moment I walk toward the bathroom, and I've started just saying yes out of spite. He still says gross every single time. I've told him it's hurtful. That this is a normal human function. That it's honestly not okay to make someone feel disgusting for having a body that works. But he doesn't stop. And the worst part is, I know he means it. He's not joking. He actually thinks it's disgusting that I go to the bathroom like any other human being. I don't know what to do anymore. I feel so disrespected in my own home. Just needed to vent somewhere because it's starting to really affect how I see myself. Stories number 35. I 33 feel like I'm losing my mind from the things my wife F33 does and thinks nothing of. Today I took our daughter F6 to the park down the street. She plays often with 2 young boys whose parents we are familiar with. Today I sat and had a conversation with the boy's mother as they played, which I have done in the past. My daughter then got on the circular swing with the one boy and asked me to come push them. Before I could get my dog to come with me, my daughter yelled, "Stop talking to your girlfriend and come push me." I told her, "That's boys' names, mother, don't be weird." We come home and my wife gets home from work. I tell her what our daughter did and how awkward it was. She starts taking shots immediately. "Oh, you have a girlfriend around the corner, maybe that's why you go to the park." Due to past similar events, this already angers me greatly. I go to shower. My daughter tells my wife that I was sitting there holding hands with the mother and looked like we were in love. Totally untrue, but she's 6 years old. I get out of the shower to her on the bed waiting to question me. She says, "Can I ask you a question?" I say yes. She asks if I was holding the mother's hand. I say no, that is ridiculous. How can you think that's even a possibility? We just talked for all of 5 minutes. She doesn't back down, she carries on with more and says she believes my daughter. I told her to go to the mother's house and talk to her then. Like WTF. I hate this, it feels like such an insult and just shows me our whole marriage is bullshit and she thinks nothing of me. She's so insecure and always accusing me of things and I just feel like I am going to explode and I can't take it anymore. Can anyone relate or offer advice on this? Update. Okay, so a lot of feedback here, I'll try to touch on some of the points for clarity. Initially I did tell my wife that nothing happened, it was the continuation that angered me. My wife has what I would call aggressive insecurity. We have been together 13 years and she has been like this the whole time. I have not cheated. I have 0 relationships with females in my life. I am in construction and told my wife about a situation at work involving one of the site superintendents who happens to be a woman and she questioned me immediately asking if I like her and is she pretty etc. That's an example of her typical behavior. I have been dealing with this for years and I have no mental bandwidth, patience or empathy left to offer her for this behavior. My daughter has never said something like this before, and I refuse to blame her. Was it wrong? Yes, and I talked to her about it. Many people are aggressively saying, of course she believes your daughter, which is okay, but to continue to believe her after I tell her it's entirely untrue is not okay. I have not seen the mother of the boys in at least a month, I had not been to the park in a few weeks. This is not a common occurrence, and I have never planned a park visit to be social with anyone. I go there so my daughter can play and be outside. Sometimes the boy's father is there instead, who I also have a friendly relationship consisting of small talk every once in a while. Am I wrong to feel like this constant doubt of my character and essentially accusations of stupidity are something I shouldn't have to deal with? Like if I was a cheater, why would I do it 100 foot from my house and in front of my child? Stories number 36. Aita for asking my husband not to go on a trip with a woman who openly flirts with him, and feeling betrayed when he did anyway. Hi everyone, I'm a 32F and I've been married to my husband, let's call him Joe, for 8 years, together for 10. In all that time, we've always prioritized each other's emotional well-being. If something hurt one of us, we didn't do it again, no matter what. We valued having a happy spouse more than being right. Because of this, my love and trust for him grew immensely. I was certain he'd never do anything that would break my heart, but here I am, heartbroken and disappointed. Joe owns a company, and we work together. Financially, we're in a great place. Recently, through Joe's father, we got the chance to bid for a major government contract, a massive opportunity. Due to its scale, several companies are teaming up, and one key company involved, without whom the deal won't happen, is led by a very attractive, flirty woman. She's the CEO and has openly flirted with Joe in front of me. We both noticed her behavior, and in order to avoid misunderstandings or conflict, we decided to work on the bid together. Things were okay until one meeting where, during a break, she touched Joe's arm and said something like, "If I had a husband like you, I'd never leave his side. You're someone every woman wants, but sometimes even that's not enough, someone else might steal your mind." I snapped and responded, "I'm not following him, he just never leaves my side." She brushed it off as a joke, but I know it wasn't. I saw the look in her eyes, and women just know. Later, I talked to Joe about it. He admitted she was crossing a line and that he was uncomfortable, but didn't react strongly to avoid jeopardizing the deal. I wasn't thrilled, but I tried to understand. Then today, I found out that I was excluded from a 3-day site visit for the bid, a trip requested by that woman. Only 5 people are going, and Joe is one of them. When I heard, I told him I was extremely uncomfortable with this, and asked him not to go. I begged, actually. I said the deal wasn't worth this. We're financially stable and don't need this contract. But he went anyway. Even after everything I said, he left without me. Something broke in me. I trusted him with my whole heart. I truly believed he'd never choose anything over my peace of mind. Now I feel like he did. He left me behind. And it hurts so deeply that part of me doesn't even care anymore. If he comes back, if he ends up with that woman, I feel numb. A part of me says, come on, 10 amazing years, don't throw it all away. Another part wants to take off my wedding ring, send him a photo, and file for divorce. So, Aita for asking him not to go. And how do I even begin to deal with these emotions? Stories number 37. So this just happened. A young man tried to check in around 2 o'clock. He did not like the rate. That's fine, you don't have to stay here, no one is forcing you to pay said rate. He asked what else comes with the room, like any food or drink. Well, we don't have a restaurant on site, but we do have snacks at the desk that can be charged to your room. He wants free stuff. Yeah, not happening. so he says he'll think about it all the while saying what a bad night he's having and that no one is respecting him. Okay, someone has issues. He walks out and leans on a window where I can see him, he's talking on the phone, then he knocks on my window. I look and he's pointing at his phone. At this point I've had enough, this is some full moon bullpoopy that I really am not in the mood for, so I go to the back office and lock the door behind me. And it just got worse, I shut off the lights, then I saw him on the camera trying to open the front door, it gaped at the top, then he walked around. At this point I called the non-emergency number to ask that a police officer do a little drive-by to check him out. Well, a few minutes later, as I am watching the cameras and the mail, grabbed the door and yanked it so hard it came open, and that's when I called 911. He then proceeded to go in the elevator. I will be walking the halls again later to check for any specifics that he may have done. I called 911 and told them to hurry as he just broke into the hotel's locked door, all the while I'm hiding in the back office with the lights out, like a little chicken poop. My heroes, the RCMP, came to my rescue. As soon as the officer arrived he put him in cuffs, walked him to the cruiser, and voila, problem solved. I love the RCMP. Stories number 38. AIO if I didn't give my parents 2.5k out of my student loan refund. Hi, I, F18, got into a big argument with my parents yesterday. For context, I'm a broke college freshman living 5 hours away from home. They texted asking for a favor, which was odd. When we got on a call, my mom said they needed $2,500 by tomorrow, 4/15, to pay their taxes. They wanted me to give them part of my student loan refund, which I'm saving for next year's apartment and living expenses. I didn't say no immediately, I told them I needed to shower, then called my boyfriend of 2 years for advice. He told me to ask reasonable questions, how they'd pay me back, why they couldn't ask someone else, etc. I called my parents back and asked, can I ask a few questions? My mom sighed but said yes. When I asked about repayment, I need the full amount back before I move in 4 months, they exploded. They accused me of not trusting them and made me feel guilty, even though I just wanted to protect myself. They eventually told me they could pay half next week, then a few hundred a month for 6 months, but that still wouldn't give me the money back in time. I said I wanted to help, but I couldn't risk not having money for housing. Then my dad brought up how I didn't pay for car insurance in high school. I reminded him that I made $150 a paycheck, while they expected me to pay $400 a month, which I clearly couldn't afford. They eventually agreed I'd just pay for gas. I said it wasn't fair to use that against me now. That's when my dad snapped and screamed, "Fuck you," repeatedly, and my mom hung up. This happened 15 minutes ago, and I'm still shaken. I know I'm not talking to them again until I get an apology. Any advice or comments would really help. Stories number 39. AITA for not playing an active role in the lives of my dad's future stepkids. My dad raised me, 20M, on his own. He was single the whole time once my mom left when I was still a baby. He started dating someone after I moved out. Her name's Jessa and she has 4 younger kids under 7. Jessa and my dad moved in together last August and they're getting married this August. I met them when I went back home for Christmas. But I didn't spend a lot of time with them. I was more focused on spending some time with my dad. Apparently Jessa has been frustrated ever since that I don't play any kind of active role in her kids' lives. My grandparents mentioned her and dad were bickering about it. That dad reminded her I was grown and in college and focusing on my future. She was even more frustrated when I didn't offer to babysit the kids so dad and Jessa could go on honeymoon. She's talked about how I should at least call and get to know her kids that way and make an effort to do something for their birthdays. She wants me to play the role of a brother and she's talked about how disinterested I appear to be in her kids. The truth is I am. These kids will be around so I'll be nice to them when I move close to home after graduation. But I'm not planning to take on the role of a brother. Being nice is just a given but the age gap is huge and I'm used to being an only child. My grandparents told me that's all anyone would expect of me but I can see Jessa isn't. Apparently dad's okay with it. He never pressured me to spend time with his future stepkids and he's not pissed at me. AITA though. Stories number 40. AITA for changing reservations over something my sister said. I, 20F, turned 20 last week. I made reservations at a restaurant for the evening of my birthday and planned for me, my mom, my stepdad, my best friend and my younger sister, 18, to go. 2 days before my birthday, me and my sister had an argument because I wasn't able to pick her up because my friend had a medical emergency and I was the only one with him at the time so stayed with him. I was able to leave when the ambulance arrived due to his sister getting there. I was panicking at the time and forgot to text her that I wasn't able to pick her up. I completely forgot I was supposed to pick her up and then went home. I apologized profusely and she was still furious. We were both shouting because the argument got heated. She then said, "You're acting just like our dad." Our dad was neglectful and emotionally abusive to us growing up, we often argued with him and he frequently forgot to pick us up from school. This comment devastated me. I still have a lot of trauma I am working through because of our dad, and she knows very well these type of comments hurt. She kept repeating that I was acting like our dad and told me that I'm no better than him. I left and she tried to call me but I didn't answer. I decided to change the birthday dinner reservations from 5 to 4 and texted her that she was no longer invited. I received no reply. I had a good birthday overall, but my sister made no effort to contact me and didn't acknowledge the text I had sent her. When it came time for the dinner, she called me and was screaming that I needed to change the reservations again to include her because she wanted to come. I hung up on her. I had told everyone coming to the dinner what was happening beforehand and they seemed fine with it until we got to the restaurant and my mom told me she was disappointed I couldn't be the bigger person. I was shocked and asked what she meant and she told me what she said wasn't that bad. All throughout dinner, she kept saying that I needed to get over silly disagreements. I left after paying and haven't spoken to my mom since. I keep thinking about what happened and I don't know if my mom was right. I don't know if should have been the bigger person. Aita. Stories number 41. I might be the jerk for stopping all the extra help I was giving my coworker after she took credit for something I did in front of our manager. So I work part-time at this office while I'm in school, and there's this one girl, Emily, who started a couple months after me. She's nice enough, but kinda clueless when it comes to the job. I've been helping her out a lot. Like walking her through tasks, catching her mistakes before they go to the manager, and even doing little parts of her work when she's behind. I wasn't mad about it. We were cool, and I figured we all need help sometimes. But last week, we were in a team meeting and our manager complimented this report that Emily submitted, which I basically redid because the original was a mess. And Emily just smiled and said, "Yeah, I really tried to make sure it was solid." Ma'am. You didn't even run spell check. I didn't say anything then, but after that day, I stopped helping. If she asks me a question, I keep it short. If she messes up, I let it roll through. I do my job, and that's it. Now she's been acting all stressed, telling other coworkers that I've changed and that she feels like she's being iced out. One even told me I was being immature for not just talking to her about it, but like, I didn't sign up to be her tutor. Especially if she's gonna take the credit. I didn't yell, didn't cause drama, just clocked out emotionally. So now I'm wondering, was that petty of me? Should I have said something? Or was I just matching the energy she gave? Stories number 42. Our date went really well, but she, 31F, asked me, 34M, to pay for her babysitter after. I haven't been on a date for a long time and need some advice. Hi, I'm 34YOM and I just had my first date after a divorce. I met this girl, 31, at my friend's party and we really clicked. After the party I texted her and we have been texting for about 3 weeks. I asked her out a couple times, but always she told me another time, because she had to take care of her 2 kids or had to be at work. Last night we have been texting and decided to finally go on a date today. I picked her up, we went to have a dinner at a nice Greek place and then we went to a bar to have a few drinks. The bar was close to her place so I walked her home. She gave me a kiss and we said goodbye. The date went really well. On my way home she texted me to let her know when I'm home and so I did. We have been texting again and setting up another date, but then she asked me if I could send her €100 for her babysitter this evening. I knew she is a single mom and the dad is absent, but since I paid for the whole date I think paying for a babysitter Oswell is a bit over the top. I also have a daughter from my marriage and I paid my nephew to take care of her for the night. I know that if I'm gonna pursue this girl, her kids will be a part of my life and I have no issue with that. Most people my age, including myself, have kids. The issue is I don't know how to feel about her asking for money after a first date. There was no prior agreement, she didn't mention any babysitter. I was married for 8 years and this was my first date after a long time, so maybe it's normal and I'm just overthinking this. Is this normal? What would you do in this situation? TLDR, I invited this girl on a date and after the date she asked me to pay for her babysitter. Stories number 43. 3 years ago I won $1 million in the lottery and never told anyone. The first thing I did was contacted an estate planning attorney and he helped me set up a trust and claimed the winnings for me with said trust in true anonymity. He also helped me plan half of it in a hedge fund where it's being managed and has consistently grown. The other half I invested in Bitcoin. All of it. That's right. When Bitcoin was at the lowest it had been in a long time I put almost $500,000 into it. I held it all this time and with the recent election causing a live crypto boom I sold. I bought Bitcoin when it was at 30K and sold when it soared over 100K. No one in my life knows. Not even my family or friends. I haven't spent a dime. I've only been working and letting my money grow while continuing to live modestly off of my salary. After the money I made from the crypto boom early this year, I'm starting to reconsider things. I'm thinking about retiring in a couple of years at age 35. As of right now, my entire estate is over 10 million. I'm very lucky and I've tried to be very smart with what I've been given. I haven't touched it other than to pay taxes on the money I've made investing, because at this point I can't afford the taxes with what I make working. I'm not sure what I want to do with my life. I have a lot more money and opportunity than I ever thought I would have. I'm really torn between trying to make a difference in this fucked up world or trying to remove myself from it and go live on an island somewhere. Stories number 44. Aita for kicking my wife out after I found out she cheated, even though she says it was just emotional. I, 34M, have been married to my wife, 32F, for 6 years, together for 9. We've had what I thought was a stable, loving relationship. No major fights, good communication, shared values, or so I thought. A couple of weeks ago, I noticed she started acting different. Guarded. Always on her phone. Jumping to shower when she got home. I trusted her, but my gut was screaming. Last Thursday, while she was asleep, I looked at her messages. I know, not proud. That's when I found them, dozens of messages between her and a coworker. Flirty, intimate, and clearly more than just friendship. Stuff like, I wish I could fall asleep next to you, and, you make me feel alive again. Nothing explicitly sexual, but emotionally, it felt worse somehow. They talked about me, how I wouldn't understand her the way he does. I confronted her the next day. She cried, admitted it, and insisted it was just emotional, that it never got physical, and that she was going through a phase of feeling unappreciated. I asked her why she didn't just talk to me about that. She said she was scared I'd shut her down. I told her to pack a bag and leave. I needed space. She begged me not to throw away our marriage over a few messages. Said I was being cruel. Her sister called me later, saying I was being dramatic and emotionally abusive for kicking her out over just texting. Now I'm sitting alone in our apartment, questioning everything. I loved her. Still do. But I feel betrayed on a level I can't describe. I don't know if I overreacted. Part of me wonders if I'm letting pride ruin what could be fixed. So, Aita for kicking her out after finding out about her emotional affair. Stories number 45. A plus-sized man called me chubby. I, 26F, am being pressured by my family into an arranged marriage. I have been fighting it since I was 22, and I even moved out last year, having screaming crying arguments with my parents and even doing no contact with them for some time. However, unfortunately, due to health issues and having to leave an extremely toxic job, I have had to move back home. My parents have pounced on the opportunity, and are sending pictures of me to possible suitors. I am silent as I am trying to keep the peace while saving money to move overseas. I have just found out that a man who was plus-sized, that my mom sent a picture of me to, replied saying, "Your daughter is chubby." I am not fat-phobic, but to honestly describe myself, I am a UK size 10 US size 6, petite, and didn't think I was being perceived as chubby. Having said that, this deeply affected me as I have been struggling with hormonal issues, especially around face, some weight gain and really bad bloating, which was upsetting enough. I am also going through a really rough breakup, so my self-esteem is down in the dumps already. I know some random prick's opinion shouldn't matter, but it quiet has upset me so much. Any advice or support would be appreciated. Stories number 46. AIO when my wife wants to go on a cruise with her college girlfriends. My wife has a group of friends from college that mostly stays in touch by text, they're spread out geographically. Out of a group of 9, she is close friends with 3 of the women. 2 years ago they all got together and rented a shore house for a couple of days. It was a lot of driving for my wife to get there and back, but I was happy she got the invitation and she had a great time. This evening I got home and my wife was all excited. The group is discussing their next get-together, a 4-day cruise to Bermuda. My wife worked hard prior to retirement and I don't begrudge her getting together with her friends. However, we have never been on a cruise together. When I brought it up several times in the past, I'm not going on a floating porta potty. Or, everyone gets norovirus on those cruises. Or even, put it on the list for your second wife. We'll be married 41 years in a few weeks and I have to admit her enthusiasm really hurt. We haven't been on a vacation in over 4 years with the exception of driving 11 hours to the East Coast to visit her family. I haven't voiced my feelings yet because I want to be objective. So Reddit AIO. Stories number 47. Aita for refusing to help my neighbor financially after her dog swallowed my dog's ball. I lost my job a few months ago due to mass layoffs and can't afford rent anymore, so I moved in with my best friend. He lives in a nice apartment in a small city. I have a puppy who stays with me, he's very energetic. I take him to the dog park in our building and for a walk at least once a day. When I'm busy with job applications or other commitments, I sometimes take him to the dog park and play fetch to help him burn off energy. Most of the other dogs in the building are friendly and play with my pup, but there's one large dog, Bosco, who is about 100 pounds and just under 2 years old. He's super energetic, jumps on people constantly, and everyone seems annoyed by him. He's jumped on me several times, I've gotten scratches on my thighs and once on my stomach that actually bled. I never complained because a month ago, his owner, Gina, fractured her fingers trying to control him. She's always friendly, and she told me she's been unemployed for over a year and is struggling financially. I genuinely feel bad for her. I usually try to avoid Bosco, especially when I have my 25-pound pup with me, but he often runs over and jumps on him too. 2 nights ago, I had to attend an event and came home late. My puppy still had a lot of energy, so I took him to the dog park to play fetch with a small ball, about 1.5 inches wide, he can't play with bigger ones. While we were playing, Gina came into the park with Bosco. I immediately picked up the ball because I didn't want Bosco to get it, he's so big and rough. Gina let him off the leash, and Bosco immediately started jumping on me with so much intensity that I dropped the ball. He grabbed it and refused to let go. Both of us tried to get it from him while I was also trying to protect myself and my puppy. Gina couldn't control him well because of her injured hand, and eventually Bosco swallowed the ball. Now she's asking me to help pay for the surgery. I'm not on unemployment benefits, have zero savings, and I'm currently borrowing money from a friend just to buy food. My parents live overseas and can't help me financially. I told Gina I can't contribute, and now she's upset with me. Aita for refusing to help. Stories number 48. My dad getting a taste of his own medicine. Just for clarity, this is meant to be a fairly light-hearted post about something that has recently broadened my dad's perspective. I love my dad and he's a good guy, but he has had certain blind spots. Since I was in my teens, I've been mostly in charge of organizing maintenance for the house as he was away a lot. I'd like to say I was doing it all myself, but no, I was just calling out plumbers and roofers and glaziers and whoever. I told him a few times that there were a couple of guys I didn't like using. Not because they'd done anything aggressive or untoward, but due to that dismissive attitude that I'm sure most of you have encountered. The boiler did what? No, the boiler can't do that, you must be mistaken. Boiler, does that? It looks like the boiler does that. And my dad just shrugged it off as me being sensitive, or I misunderstood, or whatever. Not the end of the world, but frustrating. But now my dad is old. He's completely compos mentis and reasonably physically fit, but he is visibly old. And tradesmen are now dismissing his explanations, and deferring to me, because presumably in the grand scheme, forced to choose, 30-something woman appears more competent than potentially senile 80-something man. And my dad does not like this, now that he's perceived as lower in the hierarchy and the same people I told him years ago were dismissive of me are now dismissive of him. But he has had the self-awareness to apologize for not listening to me before. Stories number 49. Aita for not correcting my friend who said I liked her before I met my partner. I, 27M, have a friend we'll call J, 25-26F, who I met about a year before meeting my partner G, 23F. J had a boyfriend when I met her. Our friend group consisted of J, another girl, and 3 of us guys, plus J's partner. J likes gossip, drama, etc. J is flirtatious despite having a partner and would compliment, tease, and joke flirtatiously. She would also start to think that guys liked her, including myself and another guy in our group, maybe all. When she got drunk, if she felt like it, she would say, he used to like me, about multiple guys, and we were all used to not correcting her, if it was about us, or not questioning it at all. If we did, she would jokingly say something like, oh, so you're saying I'm not pretty. As you can see, I felt like correcting her was not possible or would not help. After I met G, I introduced her to my friends pretty early. She knew J for about 2 years before J started to make plans to leave the country. One group night, most likely with drinks involved, J had said again that I used to like her before I met G, something I had not prepared G for. I remember telling G that I'm sorry for not telling her that J used to say that. She doesn't recall me telling her. We started to discuss this night recently and G feels hurt that J had the audacity to say that to her and feels like J shouldn't go around telling people that, because we are in a relationship and she needs to know her boundaries. I understand and share her feelings, and I think I could have easily said something, but in the time I thought that avoiding confrontation like we have in the past was the best move. I can personally think of 4 other guys who she said she thinks are into her or likes her, and no one ever denies it. G thinks I should have corrected her then, but I think not making a scene or big deal was also sparing extra embarrassment for G, since I know that Jay wants drama. My justification for not confronting Jay was that our friend group is aware of how Jay is. Aita. Side notes. I think she was trying to cause drama because she was leaving the country soon. G feels like Jay was thinking that she can get her man if she wants, but Jay is just embarrassing herself. Stories number 50. You owe me your dog because I'm sad. So this happened a couple weeks ago, and I'm still trying to process it. I, 24F, adopted a rescue dog about a year ago. He's a sweet golden retriever named Max, and he's honestly my best friend. I take him on daily walks, he's super well behaved, and literally everyone in my apartment complex loves him. Enter Jessica, fake name, who just moved into the building a month ago. She's probably early 20s, bubbly, and honestly seemed nice at first. We chatted a couple times in the elevator, and she met Max once and said he was cute. Cool. Nothing weird, until last week. She knocks on my door and asks if she can borrow Max. I was confused and asked what she meant. She says, well, I've been really sad lately and I saw how happy he made you. I think I need that kind of comfort. I just want to have him for like, a week or two. I laughed, thinking it was a joke, but nope. Dead serious. I politely told her Max isn't a rental and that I'd be happy to go on a walk with her sometime if she just wanted dog company. She then gets angry, saying I was being selfish, that I don't know what it's like to be truly alone, and that I should have some empathy and just let her have the dog for a bit. When I said no again, she called me a cold-hearted b*** and stormed off. Now she glares at me every time she sees me. She even made a passive-aggressive Instagram story like, some people don't understand what it means to share love when others are hurting. So, yeah. Apparently I'm a monster for not handing over my dog to a stranger for emotional support. Stories number 51. It's kinda upsetting when people take a kid from a dad who clearly wants to hold them. I'm a server and I recently had a big table that sat outside. It was a family that mostly sat with the men on one side and women on the other. Two of them were a couple sitting together with a probably 1.5 to 2-year-old baby, and everyone was super nice. The thing is, the baby was being passed around the women's side and the dad asked, "Can I hold baby's name?" more than once. After 30-ish minutes the dad finally says, "Can I please hold my daughter?" And the assumed grandma says, "Okay fine," in a jokingly disappointed tone. I'm not kidding when I say this man held the baby for like 3 minutes, just enough time for me to refill everyone's water, until the grandma says, "You're holding the baby wrong," and rushes over to snatch her. He did the face and was obviously upset, but most of the table laughed. This isn't the first time I've seen this happen, and it's like, dude, if you take a baby away from a guy and make him feel like the time he spends with him isn't good enough, it's gonna be a bad time. Just let the man hold his damn kid. Stories number 52. Seller took blinds with them. We're post-closing. Do I have options? Closed on a house last week. Did the final walkthrough and noticed they were removed. Our agent said blinds usually aren't a part of the sale. Shrugged and said okay, went to closing, signed all the papers, moved in. Realized later that afternoon that blinds were specifically mentioned in the purchase agreement as being ours. Agent apologized, said he screwed up, etc. Seller's agent said they were asked by seller to take blinds out but forgot. Offered us roughly half of what the blinds would cost to buy new. Our agent consulted our settlement attorney and their legal advice was that since we did the walkthrough and signed the closing documents without bringing the issue up, we have a very weak legal case. I'm pretty surprised to hear that. I get that we messed up and maybe this is just an expensive lesson to learn about being more diligent. But is that really how this works? The seller can break the agreement, and as long as the buyer didn't notice it on the walkthrough then they are off the hook legally. The other thing we're wondering about is whether our agent is at fault for anything, given that we raised the issue with him and he A, initially gave us incorrect info and B, never double-checked it afterwards. Where's the line between messing up at your job and being responsible in some additional way? It's probably like $1,500 to $2,000 that we'd be out if we just took what's been offered, which I guess isn't a huge amount of money in the grand scheme of things. Just feeling a little frustrated, and foolish, ATM, and wondering if anyone else has experienced something like this and whether they were given different advice than we have. Thanks. Stories number 53. BF told me I'm rushing him into marriage after 5 years of dating. My BF, M31, and I, F26, have been together for 5 years. We bought a house together 3.5 years ago, everything is joint, bank accounts, car insurance, etc. We had a conversation a few weeks ago about getting married and he told me that he doesn't like to feel rushed. The last time we talked about this was in September and he told me that we'd be engaged in less than 6 months. Obviously that didn't happen, so now I don't know what to do. Our relationship is perfect otherwise. We usually communicate really well. He's very attentive and loving. We still go out together and have date nights. He's told me many times before that he wants to marry me. I just don't understand why he won't propose. So my question is, how do I approach this topic again? Or should I even bring it up again? Stories number 54. My roommate told me she has a crush on me. My roommate, 25F, revealed to me, 24M, that she has feelings for me this evening. I recently got out of a relationship and then lost my grandfather, so she wanted to give me some space before saying something. I started going on a few dates the last few weeks and have started getting close to someone, so she decided to tell me. I also have feelings for her and have for a long time. I just never thought it was a possibility and I didn't want to mess up our friendship. We have been living together for 2.5 years with another roommate, my sister, 27F. My sister and my roommate were friends for years before she introduced me to her, and she also has feelings for her, but my roommate does not have feelings for her. My sister was a bit upset and decided to go to her room for the night. What do I do? Any tips on how to navigate this situation? We're going out for lunch tomorrow to talk about things. Stories number 55. Beep your horn at my mother, get mildly inconvenienced. My mother, 60s, was putting shopping bags into the side door of her car whilst in a car park. While doing this, a lady, 20s, who was parked diagonally in front of her started driving slowly towards her, crossing the midline of the spaces. She then honked her horn and wafted her hands at my mother, indicating for her to get out of the way. Obviously, this annoyed my mother, who just shook her head and continued putting shopping away. The lady then honked again and shouted out the window to move your trolley, I don't like reversing. Again, my mother continued putting away her shopping as the lady had more than enough space to reverse out as there were no cars beside or behind her. By the time my mother had finished putting away the shopping, the lady honked a third time. So, my mother left the shopping cart in front of the lady's car, quickly got into her own car and drove away smiling. Glancing in the rear view as the angry lady had to get out of her car to move the trolley away, great success. Stories number 56. Aita for telling my GF's mother she's horrible. So I 19 meters, lol, have a GF 19F. She's the kindest sweetest person in the world, like genuinely. My problem is my GF's mother. She's a horrible old lady and I hate her with every fiber of my being. She's so mean to my GF no matter how much she does for her mom. Like yesterday my GF was sick and I went to go see her. She's got her periods and the flu, so like it's a war zone. She's throwing up, can barely walk and crying 24/7. I spend most of the day with her since I work night shift and she had sick leave. And the whole reason she's sick is because of her brothers. Her mom literally rubbed her brothers, made them soup and coddled them the whole time they were sick, but she gave not one single fuck today. My GF was throwing up the whole day, not once did she ask if she was okay or if she needed anything. She acted like it was an inconvenience and my poor baby was crying. How can you treat your own daughter like this? Here's where I may be the As I was leaving, my GF was asleep in her room and her mom was downstairs coddling her little brother. I stopped and I asked her to just check on my GF through the night to make sure she's okay, and she gave me such a dirty look and like it genuinely pissed me off. I told her she's a horrible mother who for some reason hates the child who does the most for her and treats her lazy unhelpful sons like the sun shines out of their asses, and then left. My GF hasn't messaged me yet to berate me, so maybe that's good, but am I the holy?